Hello there. So it's that time of year again. Time for another tier list. This time around, we're going to be ranking over 160 headphones. And I brought with me Cameron and Griffin to give their respective tier lists as well. By the end of this, we will be bruised and bloody and full of sadness, but hopefully we'll learn something along the way.
I'm sure we'll agree on everything. It will be clear and there will be no disagreements whatsoever.
I'm going to be out here fighting for my life against these treble heads. Help me, guys.
All right, let's get going with the video. So we decided to go about this a bit differently from how we did this last time. Each of us have put together a full ranking for the headphones that are on this list, and we've decided to put this ranking up on headphones.com. So if you guys want to get a sense, a more deeper look into how we rated these different headphones, there will be a permanent list there that will be updated as new headphones become available for both sound, for comfort, for value, and then the overall scores that we give these headphones. So when it comes to how we arrived at these scores, we each sort of had a bit of a different methodology, but we ended up, giving each of these headphones an overall sound score, and that's what we're basing these rankings on here today. But obviously there's going to be some disagreement. I want to note, this is not based on how they measure. I think folks might be a little bit confused. We originally thought that maybe we would do something like that, but then when we started looking at the data, we realized that's actually kind of impossible. So this is how we feel about these headphones subjectively, how they sound to us individually, and that's also going to lead to quite a bit of variation.
And just to be clear, all of the headphones that we're ranking today, this is about how they sound out of the box. We're not talking about necessarily how good you can EQ them if you spend a bunch of time fiddling with it. But for some of them where it's a case of, if you just put a bass shelf on this, it's a fantastic headphone, we might consider that slightly. But otherwise, this is stock sound.
One other little caveat here, these rankings that you're going to see, they are likely subject to change, and they're probably not the same as what they would have been in the past. And that's because we're trying to use the full range of possible sound quality available to us. So the best headphone in the world does not get the highest score because there's still quite a bit of headroom available if you do things like EQ. But also, I think people might be used to headphones doing very well across the board and ranking highly for people. And that's because most of those other ways of scoring headphones are compressing the scale quite a bit. So we want to use as much range as possible while still leaving a bit of headroom for EQ and personalizing the sound as much as possible.
You may be used to seeing a lot of tier lists or ranking lists for things where they're quite generous to a lot of stuff. I think what was all saying earlier is we are trying to look at the big picture. So most headphones are about a 5 or about a B. That's not a bad thing. Just because something is not in an S tier, it does not mean it's a bad headphone. Our lists are maybe a little more centered around the middle.
Okay, so with that out of the way, let's dive into the ranking list. Let's start with Abyss. The first one on the list here is the Abyss AB1266 FiiTC. That's the big one. That's the big boy. How do you guys feel about this one?
I imagine my feelings on it are going to be a little different to you guys, because I think I am a bit more positive about this one. This is a headphone which I do actually like quite a lot, not because it is anything neutral or transparent, it very much isn't, but just because its wonkiness is a kind of wonkiness that just happens to work for me, particularly with electronic music. So I would put this one personally in a B for specific things.
Yeah, I actually agree with you on this one. I also gave the sound quality rounding up to a B, but I'm actually going to put this headphone in C tier overall just because it is so uncomfortable. It's really heavy and is very difficult to wear. So for me, yeah, it's a C tier.
Yeah, for me, it is a very comfortable C tier. Whatever wonk is there just doesn't work for me at all. It's got weird mids. It's got that inconsistency of bass depending on like where exactly the pads are situated, and the treble's rough.
Abyss Diana MR. How did you guys rank this one?
Very much middle of the road for me. It's okay bass, okay mids, treble's not really my thing. The comfort is honestly the biggest issue. I just can't get a seal on the Diana headphones. They just don't really fit me properly. So I would put this in a C.
I actually put this one in a B tier, but I kind of feel similarly about it, Cameron. Okay bass, okay mids, didn't love the treble, and yeah, the comfort was a bit problematic, but for me it ended up just a little bit higher.
Yeah, I mean, for me it's kind of similar to the like Abyss house sound, but it doesn't have the fun bass party trick of the 1266. So yeah, C minus. C in that ballpark.
Abyss Diana TC.
This one I was quite a bit more negative on. The treble in particular, it's just too much. It's too aggressive and fatiguing to listen to for me. So this one I kind of would put in a fairly solid D.
Yeah, so I gave this one a B. I felt similarly about it. There were things that sort of stood out, but then overall there were timbre quirks that I didn't like, and the comfort again for the yoke system, it is problematic.
For me, it was, again, like the Diana MR, a C- at best. Just kind of wonky with no real appeal to me.
Abyss Joal, that's the new one.
I haven't heard that one.
So I did a review on this one recently, if anyone wants to go watch it. This one I was more positive on. This one is by far the most normal sounding Diana line headphone, even though it's not technically called Diana, but it is same body and everything. The big problem for me, honestly, on this one is there's a hole at 4 kilohertz, which if you fix, it actually sounds really quite good. I would put this one in a C. If you're happy to EQ it, it would go up to a B, but stock sound, C.
For me, I put this one also in a B, but see, for me, I go Joal is the best of this platform, and then MR and TC are kind of interchangeable to me. I know they're different headphones, but to me, they're similar in terms of the things they did well and things that I didn't like about them. The same issues for me with the comfort on the other Diana models is there with the Joal. I like the bass, I like the mids, didn't love the treble, so that is B tier for me.
I think that's all the Abyss headphones we have on here.
AKG
K361.
I've not heard this one.
I gave this one a B tier. This is just B tiers across. Most headphones are B tier for different reasons. I like the bass, I like the mids, didn't love the treble, and it's reasonably comfortable, but also it's built like it'll fall apart when you look at it. So B tier for me, but I could see it going down to C.
I did much the same, B tier. When I could get it to couple, it sounds pretty good, except for the treble being pretty rough in the mid treble. But most of the time it doesn't couple on my head, so it sounds quite a bit thinner and brighter than I think a lot of other people will hear it. But when I do couple it, it sounds great. So B tier.
We're onto the K371 now, and it's basically the same thing for me. I felt I preferred the K371 a little bit, but there's also quite a bit of unit variation with those, and how they couple is going to influence the bass and everything. So it's really hard to say across the board for people how if they're going to prefer one or the other. But for me, yeah, the K371 was a little bit better, but still B tier.
I think it's worth noting just how good the value on that one is, though. For me, that's definitely a B. Not necessarily because it sounds better than all the headphones that are going to be in C tier. This is mostly a sound tier list, but I have to factor the value in on this one because it is very good value.
Yeah, for me, it was much the same. Solid B tier, good bass and mids, kind of weird treble, but again, only when it couples do I get the bass. So yeah, just wish the mechanical design on that one was a little bit better.
All right, on to Audeze. So the first one here is Audeze Carbon. I didn't love the bass, but I liked the mids. The problem for me with this headphone is that it's a bit shouty, and also the clamp is too much for me. So this is a B tier headphone for me overall. For folks who are unaware, this is an electrostatic headphone. If you've ever heard electrostatic headphone before, this one is very different from most. Let's put it that way. Cameron, how did you get on with it?
The original one, I would put in a B tier as well, especially for an electrostatic headphone. It's one of the few electrostatic headphones that actually does bass nicely, but the original one had a thing where it would make what's called the STAX fart sound quite a lot. They fixed that in version 2. Unfortunately, it sounds way worse. The version 2, I would put in a solid D. I can't work out what's going on with that headphone, and I didn't like it, unfortunately. The original one, pretty good, especially for an electrostat, doing some of the things that electrostats don't typically do well.
I would also put the Carbon 2 into D or C tier.
Yeah, I don't know. When it comes to Carbon, I didn't think the mids were that good. In fact, I thought it was kind of worse than E-stat mids typically are. Like, I feel like the problem with E-stat mids is that there's so little low mid range, and then you have that 1K hump, that it ends up being pretty lean. It usually has a nice kind of recession above the 1 kilohertz point that levels that out a little bit, but because the Carbon doesn't do that and just kind of goes ham with the upper mids, it ends up sounding like even leaner, even drier, a little bit shouty.
Well, it depends where you define upper mids. If you're saying like, everything above 2 kilohertz is treble, right?
Yeah, whatever. The part above 1K is more forward, so it's less of a balanced signature overall, and just sounds kind of thinner, drier to me, even though it does have better bass extension because of, I think, how the pad situation works on that headphone versus some of the STAX designs. I really just perceive it as very lean, dry, shouty. So I gave that one a C tier.
Did you hear Carbon 2?
No, I did not. So we can move on.
Moving on to LCD2 Classic. I didn't love this one. To me, it's fine. It's one of those typical sort of Audeze kind of sound signatures, but I found this one to be kind of grainy and hazy. Didn't love the treble. So I gave this a C tier.
Yeah, I kind of be the same. I think that the bass and the mids on it are actually pretty decent, but then the treble was uninspired. That's the best way I could put it. And it just kind of sounded a little bit boring. There's nothing really objectionable about it, but I also just didn't really feel like smiling all that much. So I put this in C.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it actually had probably my favorite of Audeze's treble presentations, like of the LCD lineup. It is like the darkest. It has the least upper treble, at least from what I remember. It was like that and the LCD GX seemed the most reserved up there. And it also kind of had the best mids too. Like it had the most filled in 2 kilohertz area, but the bass was the least inspiring. And I think when you lose that kind of upper treble shimmer that it has, it kind of lose what makes them sound technical at all. So yeah, I put it firmly in a C tier because it's a decent dark sound signature, but there's nothing really interesting about it.
On to LCD2 Close. This is straight to D tier for me. The bass is good for like double kicks, like if you're listening to metal and stuff like that, but nothing else. Nothing else is good about the sound of this headphone, and it's very heavy.
I haven't heard this one.
Yeah, it's because the bass to mid-range tilt is so goddamn lean that like it's really fast, so it can keep up with like double kicks and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a D tier for me too. It's just not a balanced sounding headphone at all.
Onto the LCD2F. So the fixed version of that, let's say. I gave this a B tier, I think. Yeah, B tier. With good bass and mids. Didn't love the treble, but I like this overall quite a bit more than the LCD2 Classic.
I haven't heard this one.
I have it in B tier, right above LCD2 Classic, because I feel like the bass is a little bit more engaging, and I don't know if it's because it feels like a more closed-in front volume, or if it's because it's heavier, or what. But for some reason I can't really pinpoint, the 2 phaser does just have a better bass presentation for me. It does have that treble sparkle that I don't love as much, but it ends up being a more fun sounding headphone for it. So I do have a moderate preference for it over the 2 Classic.
LCD4. So I gave this one, did I put this in A tier? No, I'm still going with B tier. So it is higher for me than the LCD2F, but I like the bass a lot on it and I like the mids, but the treble is just too dark. If I'm allowed to EQ a little bit, this probably goes up to A tier.
I'm very similar. There's one unit of this that I heard which I would put in A tier. Unfortunately, the unit variation on these was pretty high. Most of the ones I heard I put in B tier, but there was one which had just a bit more treble going on, and I really liked that one. But the bass is pretty great. It's really pretty ideal mids. The treble is just, whilst I like the profile of it, just too dark. So I would put this one in B as well. Yeah,
for me, this is one of the very, very few A-tier headphones. I think I have less than 5 A-tier headphones total. And this is, I think, number 1 or number 2. The bass of this headphone just knocks my socks off every time I hear it. Even if it's a bad unit, I feel like it just has this special thing going on in the bass to mid-range relationship that just makes bass instruments sound super textured, super heavy, and I love that about it. I also think the mid-range is a little bit underrated. I feel like overall it's a pretty coherent listen to me, at least on the good units. There are bad units with too much upper treble for me where, yeah, it becomes a little bit much, but the good units I've heard are some of the best headphones I've ever heard. So, A tier.
Audeze LCD5. This one, I put it into also B tier. This is a bit of a polarizing one because it is one, again, where the treble is a bit on the harsh side. It is a bit on the shouty side. But the mid-range I found to be pretty good, like very, very good, actually. And this is one where, like, for people who wanted to get into EQ, it also would take to it quite well. So I could see with EQ this going quite a bit higher. The reason why overall, though, this is so much worse for me is because it's just way too clampy. And so as a result, it actually knocks it down quite a bit for me.
I felt that this one was the most headphone that I've heard. It's, other than the shout, which was a little much, there was just so much about it which was okay, nothing really to complain about, nothing all that great. I didn't get like any stage on it at all, and I was just completely neutral whilst listening to it. But I would rather that than have something to complain about, so B tier.
Yeah, same for me. I would say I wasn't as pleased about the mid-range on it. Again, like the carbon, too lean, not enough low mid or bass. I kind of like the darkness of treble that it has, so B tier.
Moving on to the Audeze LCD GX. I gave this one a B tier. Low B. This one there's just a lot of B. That's just how this goes. I like the mid-range, didn't love the bass or the treble, but I thought it's okay overall, and it's more comfortable than some of the other bigger, heavier Audezes.
I haven't heard this one.
Yeah, very similar to me, to the LCD2 Classic, just with a slightly better mid-range to my ear. So B tier.
All right, now we're on to the Audeze LCD MX4. This is one where I have heard it, but it's been so long, and I only heard it for just a little bit that I don't feel confident in giving this a ranking.
I haven't heard it.
Okay. Yeah, I quite like this headphone. It kind of combines the best parts of the 2 Classic and GX to me, where the treble is a little bit more relaxed with a more present and fun bass presentation like the 2F or the LCD-X. So I'd put this one in a high B tier. I like this headphone.
Audeze LCD-X, the 2021 revision. I put this one into a higher B tier. Like the mids, out of all of that series, I actually like the treble on this more than most, which I know Griffin is going to hate, but that's fine.
Yeah.
I didn't love the bass on this one, but it has a bit of a relaxed ear gain presentation, which I also really liked. So again, if you extend treble to count, I guess, the 3 kilohertz region, I like that about it. So higher B tier for me.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think this is definitely the most fun Audeze for me. It's the one that, even if it's not technically the most neutral or anything, it's definitely the one I enjoyed listening to the most, and I did enjoy the slightly more relaxed ear game presentation as well. So high B tier, I think.
I would put it high B tier too. I actually think it's Audeze's most neutral mid-range, weirdly. Like the LCD5 and MM500, MM100 are all a little too shouty. I feel like this splits the difference really nicely, where it's just a little bit less honky than the others. The treble's way too much for me, but the mids are nice, and the bass is like the LCD2F in terms of performance. So yeah, B tier.
Audeze LCD XC, again, 2021. And this one's also going to be polarizing because it is very coupling sensitive. If you don't get a good seal, you get no bass. And that messes everything up. It makes it sound really lean. But if you do get coupling, I put it into, again, high B, similar to the LCD X 2021. Like the mids, like the bass. And this is another one where if you're listening to double kicks with, for heavy metal music, it actually does really, really well, if it couples correctly. The reason why I would probably rate this lower overall is because it's like the heaviest headphone of all time. What do you think, Cameron?
I haven't heard this one.
I do not like this headphone. This is a firm D tier for me. I feel like it's even thinner and leaner and brighter than the LCD2 closed. Yeah, so just solid D tier for me.
Onto the Audeze Maxwell. I love this headphone. I put this in A tier. The only issue is that I think there's been some reports of a recent firmware making it somehow not as good as what it was, so I'll need to double check that. But if it's what it was when I did my review, that's an A tier headphone for me. Great bass, great mids, very neutral presentation overall.
I've not heard a new firmware version, but yeah, the original one, I think solid A tier, especially for the fact that it's a gaming headset. Yeah, wow.
For me, it's B tier. Solid all around. A little bit too much bass for me. Great mids. Kind of uppy downy in the treble, but respectable. I can't say it's my favorite sounding like closed back headphone or wireless headphone, but it's good.
Audeze MM100. I haven't heard this one. I
heard a prototype, which I don't think is representative of the final thing, so I'm going to hold off on this one.
Okay, I mean, the final thing is pretty bad. I would probably give it like a low C tier. All of the things that are like borderline about the MM500, like the mids being a little bit too shouty or the treble being a little too rocky, it just steps over the line, MM100. So yeah, low C tier, if not D tier.
MM500. I would have put this into A tier if not for the fact that just like the LCD5, it's so uncomfortable. The sound is pretty good. The mid-range is pretty good. The treble is a bit dark for me, so it does have a little bit of that sort of shouty character, but it is actually smoother and easier to listen to, or less fatiguing, I guess, compared to the LCD5. I like the sound. It's just the clamp is way too much for me.
I'm exactly the same. I actually really quite like the sound of it a lot, but the clamp is quite something, so I'd put it in high B. It would have been an A if the comfort is better.
Yeah, I also have it high B. I just wish there was a little bit more warm tilt to the mids and bass, and I wish the treble was a little bit less weird. There's some darkness, some brightness, yeah, but B tier.
All right, so now it's time for Audio-Technica. We'll start with the ADX 5000. I gave this a C tier. What did you guys think?
I tried this one at a meet where it was exceptionally loud, so I don't trust my impressions of it. I'm going to hold off.
Fair enough. I have it at a low C tier, maybe on the border of D tier. Really wonky mids, tons of treble brightness, grain, all of the stuff I don't like in headphones is present in this headphone. So C, D, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Moving on to the Audio-Technica ADX 7000. I can't rank this one because I haven't heard it yet.
I haven't heard this one.
For me, it's a solid B tier. Like it's Audio-Technica's best open headphone by a considerable margin from what I've heard. Fun bass, not the most dynamic, solid mid-range, and some uppy downy treble typical of flagships, but it's enjoyable. B tier.
The M40X. Again,
into the bin.
Way
Next.
too long. Into the bin.
For me, it's C tier. I don't hate this headphone for, the cost and how long it's been around. I think it's a fine option. The treble's kind of a mess. The coupling is bad. The design is not good, but C tier in a good situation if it fits.
M50X.
Into the bin. Next.
I'd put this at a low C.
Yeah, I put this in D tier. It is quite a bit harsher and like leaner than the M40X, and the treble still has a bunch of problems. So yeah, D tier for me.
R30X. Also hated this headphone. It's so bright and so lean. I put it into, this is in D tier for me. I think the balance overall for like mids and treble isn't horrible. It's just had no low end for me, and probably because it didn't couple, because it's so like the coupling design just doesn't fit properly on my head for some reason. But yeah, I hated this one. Have you heard this, Cameron?
Nope, no, I heard this one.
I also haven't heard this one yet. I actually have one being delivered today. I have the R30X, R50X, and R70XA being delivered today. But this is why this ranking list is going to be something that is on our site so that you can see as it's updated and we hear new stuff. For now, this is what we can do. But so you said D tier. It's
D tier for me, but I can imagine for somebody with a smaller head, for it, if it couples more appropriately, that'd be all right. Next up is the R50X, and this one is the slightly more V-shaped one. Of the new ones that came out. And I actually thought this was okay. It's not my favorite kind of sound signature, but I could see somebody who likes this kind of sound signature being into it. I put it in B tier. And I also found this one to be the best coupling out of all the new ones, because the R70XA is just really badly designed for its ergonomic and mechanical design. This one's fine.
I haven't heard this one. The next only other Audio-Technica one I've heard is the W2022.
Got it. Yeah, I haven't heard the R50X either, so we can move on.
R70X. Now, this is not the new one. This is the original R70X. I like this headphone generally. I gave this a high B tier. I really like the mid-range on this one. This is some of the best mids, for me at least, on the board. Didn't love the treble, but the mids are great.
I like this headphone. High B tier. Basically the same reasons. I do find the treble a little bit weird. Darkness in low treble, brightness in the mid treble. Kind of not great for me, but still B tier. Good mid-range, good bass.
Now the R70XA, and it's similar for the mids for me. I thought it's pretty good, but the coupling is so much worse for big heads, right? If you have a smaller head, maybe it'll be okay, but it's the kind of thing where like pushes into the temples and always sort of hangs down where there's a gap at the bottom for me.
Yeah.
I don't think I got the full fat bass response. So for me, I preferred the R70X, but
it's got the Diana effect going.
Yeah, basically, yeah. What about you guys?
Haven't heard it.
The W2022 Audio-Technica. So I also gave this one a B. I like the bass, but it's just too dark overall. But it's very comfortable. What do you guys think?
I was kind of similar. It is quite dark, and it is a little mid-bassy, but I really enjoyed it. And as a closed back, it's one that I would, it's a very, very expensive, but it's definitely one that I would look towards. I'd put it in B.
It's a comfortable A tier for me, if not bordering on S tier. I love this headphone, everything about it. The bass slams super hard, but it's not fatiguing. And the treble is nicely dark in a way I like. So let's say high A tier.
The Auribus Acoustics Everest. I didn't want to rank this one because I've heard so many different prototypes and versions of this that Juan was working on. So my memory of it is not great. So I don't want to really rank this one.
I felt that the bass on it was okay. That was its weakest point. Mids were getting better, and then the treble, for me, fit really quite nicely. It ended up in a kind of lowish B, because there were definitely some improvements available, which he did do with the Sierra. Sierra drank higher, as we'll get onto in a sec. But yeah, lowish B.
Yeah, I would say mid B for me. Again, the bass was the weak point for me as well. I felt like the whole signature just tilted a little bit too dark, warm, muddy. But the mids were solid. Treble worked well on my head. It just sounded kind of muffled.
Auribus Acoustics Sierra. Now this is the one with the filter in it. I gave this a B tier. I like the bass. The mids were okay. I did not like the treble. There's a weird, I don't know if it's like 3.5 kilohertz thing on my head at least. Sounded a little bit grainy to me for the treble, but bass and mids were pretty good.
I would put this in an A, personally. I felt that the bass and mids were pretty good. The treble was its weakest point. There is a little bit of a thing going on there, but something which I could quite easily look past for the rest of it.
To me, it's a C tier, easily. It just has too much bass and way too much treble for me. The mid-range is solid. I also don't love the industrial design. I just feel like it doesn't fit my head very naturally. It looks amazing. Like, I actually do really like the look, but just the feel in the hand and on the head isn't isn't working for me. So C tier.
Aurorus Audio Australis. This is the closeback. I gave this a C tier. It had decent bass, but I didn't like much else about it. It was just very muffly sounding to me.
Haven't heard this one, Cameron?
I haven't heard any Aurorus headphones.
Got it. Yeah, so I used to own one of these actually. It's probably one of my favorite closeback headphones. I feel like if the ATHW 2022 didn't exist, it probably would be my favorite closeback headphone. Yeah, the bass is probably a little bit too much for me, and the mids are maybe a little bit too warm, but I love the treble on it. So very, very high B tier, if not low A tier.
Let's move on to the Borealis. I like this one quite a bit better. I gave this, I think, a B tier. I like the bass. The mids have a bit of a kind of a flare similar to some of the focals, which I think can kind of work. Didn't love the treble, but I still put it into B tier.
Yeah, for me, it's in B tier too. Bass is pretty good. Mids are definitely a little bit weird. But again, I love the treble of this headphone. It has a little bit more low treble to my ear than the Australis did.
It's got 5K, 5 point something, 5.2. Yeah.
Yeah, but the upper treble is like one of the best open back dynamic driver headphones on my head. So yeah, solid high B tier for me.
The Aurorus Quasar. I haven't heard this one.
I have. It has a similar bass and mid-range to the Borealis, a little bit warmer in the mids, but I think it might be a little bit more coupling sensitive than those headphones because the bass response was a little inconsistent for me, and also the treble is like way rougher. So what was my favorite part of the Aurorus designs that use the tierlist driver is kind of my least favorite part of the Quasar. So for me, this one was a C tier. Yeah, just kind of rough sounding.
Austrian Audio Composer. We're gonna
fight.
Have very different. Yeah, we're gonna fight about this one. This is an A tier for me. So across the board, like for bass, mids, and treble, I rank it pretty highly. I think for me, it also improved when I put on the suede pads a little bit. There are reasons for this, not because it actually not because it measures any differently, but there was more variation at least. And because I got a bigger head, I guess it's just coupling differently for me when I use the suede pads. Yeah, for me, this is an A tier.
For me, solid A tier as well. With the new pads. With the old pads, high B, but the new one, solid A. It's still a little bit bright. It definitely needs just a little bit of a taming there to some degree. But overall, I'd say probably my favorite dynamic driver headphone and one of the headphones that I just generally like the most.
Yeah, so it's a low C, high D for me. I don't like any part of this headphone. The bass I think would be good in isolation, but because it has that really sharp upper mid-range dip, it sounds way too bassy for me, and the trebles, woof. Yeah, like even worse than some of the Hifiman planars on my head, because it has more of like a roughness in the low treble. Yeah, do not like this headphone at all.
Moving on, Beyerdynamic DT700 Pro X. This is in C tier, high C. It's not bad, I think. I didn't love the treble on this one. I thought the bass was okay and the mids were okay, didn't love the treble. And I also don't like the mechanical design on this one. It doesn't have cup swivel, so it's not the most comfortable for big heads.
This is the only Beyerdynamic I've not heard.
For me, it's a C tier. Yeah, basically all the same reasons you said. So not much else to say.
The DT770, going way back. I gave this one also a C tier. It's similar to the 700 Pro X. Also didn't love the treble. I find the treble to be sibilant, but I like the bass in the mids.
I'm pretty similar. Bass on this one doesn't roll off as much as the others, which was nice, and the mids were pretty okay. The treble was not great for me. Not as crazy as some others. I'd put this D, just because the treble just doesn't work.
Yeah, I put it in D tier too. I don't know what y'all are hearing in the mids, but the mids on that headphone are not good. It has no lower mids. It is a D tier.
DT880. I give this a B tier, surprisingly. Low B. Didn't love the bass. In fact, I don't like the bass at all on this one. I like the mids quite a bit on the DT880. Don't like the treble.
I thought that the bass was quite a bit worse than the 770 because it just rolls off so much. Mids were about the same, maybe actually slightly better. The treble is bad enough that it just knocks the entire headphone down to a solid D for me.
For me, it's a C tier. I've only heard one unit, and I don't know how old the pads were. The treble was bad, but it wasn't like murderously bad. The mids are good. A little bit warm for my taste, but yeah, the bass was not good either, so C tier.
DT990, here we go.
Into the bin it goes.
I have this as like the lowest.
What the hell's going on that headphone?
I have this as the lowest ranking for the treble, but here's the thing. It's got really good mid-range.
It does.
Yeah. So I have it in
the
C
opposite
tier.
on this one. The mids on this one sucked for me.
Really? Oh. Okay. I put it into C tier because it does have redeemable qualities, particularly the mid-range.
I mean, yeah, I put it in D tier because it has a redeemable mid-range. The bass is too much for me in the wrong spot, and the treble is ridiculous. So I couldn't put it any higher than D, frankly.
Moving on, the DT1990 Pro. I hate this headphone. This has a peak at 8.5 kilohertz of depth. It's just as bad as the DT990s, or almost as bad. And then another one at like 12 kilohertz. Just everything has this like sound to it. It's awful. But again, redeemable mid-range, and the bass is also fine for an open back headphone. So I put this into C tier as well.
Exactly the same. It's a pretty decent mids, pretty decent bass, but then the treble just completely ruins it for me. So for me, again, solid D, just because I actually can't listen to them for very long.
For me, it's high D, low C.
Sorry, did I say C? I meant D. This is D for me.
I think either would be defensible, but yeah, for me, it's D tier.
Okay, Beyerdynamic Tiger 300R. This is a weird one because I think there was like a revision to this one at some point, and I don't know what they're on now because I have a measurement of it that just doesn't match what I've seen in other places as well. So I have a unit that's really strange in the bass. Yeah, so I gave this a C tier. I gave this mediocre across the board, basically. But I've seen versions of this that are quite a bit better.
I'm about the same. The one thing about it that was kind of weird is it staged really quite well, but then it just most other stuff about it was not bad, but just a little wonky. So yeah, I'd put C.
I haven't heard this one.
Now we're into Dan Clark Audio DCA Aeon Noir 2. Aeon 2 Noir, sorry. This one I put into B tier. I like the bass, I like the mids, I didn't love the treble. This is the story of my life. What about you guys?
Haven't heard it.
Didn't really love any part of this headphone. It had typical planar brightness above 8 kilohertz. The mids were okay, still a little bit too cold, and the bass was kind of lumpy, so C tier.
The DCA E3. I put this into A tier. This sort of fixed my issues with the other sort of high-end close-back headphones that Dan did, and it sounded pretty good on my head.
Yeah, this phone for me, the bass is pretty great. The mids are not the best, but pretty decent, and then the treble worked really nicely for me. The one thing that was slightly weird about it is, despite being a close-back, it has a vent that means it doesn't isolate super well, so I don't quite understand the use case. But I did like the sound. I would put this in A tier for sure.
Yeah, I don't love this headphone. The treble, for some reason, works incredibly well for me. Like one of the best headphones on my head, period. But the mids are so cold and kind of shouty and glary, and the bass is way overblown on my head. So I gave it a C tier.
All right, so moving on. This one might break some hearts. The DCA Expanse. I have this in D tier. It sounds shouty to me, and the treble is harsh and dull at the same time. I do not like this headphone.
I wasn't quite that bad. This one the treble definitely does not work as well on my head as it does for some other people. But yeah, I would put this one in C. I didn't dislike it, but it wasn't one that I would reach to.
Yeah, the Expanse to me sounds quite similar to the E3 actually. Too much bass, too cold on the mids, and honestly treble that works pretty well for me. But yeah, because of the bass and mids, it's in C tier for me.
All right, so the Noir X. This one is interesting because it's almost like it's a step forward in some respects compared to the Aeon Noir, but then a step back for the mids because there's this forward resonance at around like 2.5 kilohertz or something like that. I gave this a B tier though, because I think it depends on the kind of music that you're listening to. For certain types of music, it works really well, but for as soon as there's like vocals involved, I'm like, yeah, not sure I love it so much.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar. I would say either C or D. I'm not entirely sure. I think I like the treble on this one quite a bit more than most other DCAs, but then the mids just a bit not quite right. Vocals were a little weird.
It's funny that Cameron likes the treble on these more because these are the only AMTS equipped of Dan's headphones that like I do not like the treble, and it's more upper treble than the other ones did on my head, and the mids are similarly cold to the other ones, except instead of a 3 to 4K thing, it's more of a 2 kilohertz thing. And yeah, still too much bass on my head. So to me, it's a C tier.
Noir X Open. For me, I put this into B tier. It has basically the same problem as the closed does. I found it to be less of a problem. And I actually really like the way the treble is handled on this one. And it's an open back with a bass shelf with a bass boost. So it's actually my favorite of Dan's open back headphones. I have a bit of an issue with that like 2 to 3 kilohertz forwardness on this one as well.
Yeah, this is one of those ones where I'd say like I kind of have to mention EQ, because if you just take down that 2 to 3 kilohertz bit a bit, I really like it. Out of the box, that bit is just a little kind of shouty. Besides that, this is definitely one of my favorite DCAs, and I've actually been listening to it recently. So I put B, maybe A if you EQ.
Yeah, this one's C tier again for me. I find it very similar to the closeback variant, just with a little bit more politeness in the bass. But yeah, the treble and the mids both being not great on my head means can't really go higher than C.
All right, the Stealth. I gave this one a B tier. I found it just a little bit on the shouty side, but also it didn't do anything amazing, didn't do anything too horrible.
This one I'd put an A, because this is the one out of all of Dan's headphones where the AMTS thing just does seemingly exactly what it's supposed to. The treble works great on my head. I like the mid-range a lot. The one issue I had with it that maybe would bump it down to a B is that it's very leakage dependent. Like, if I'm not getting a perfect seal, the bass just goes away. As long as it is situated fine, and I've had a haircut recently, then it's an A.
This one's in a very high B tier for me. It's pretty close to an A, but I don't think it would quite be there because of the comfort and the cost. But genuinely, I agree basically exactly with Cameron. The treble works fantastically for me. I really like the mid-range. There's a little bit too much bass on my head again, so it does come across kind of a slow, slightly muffled presentation. But I think for a closed-back headphone, it's probably the best I've heard all around in terms of neutrality. So yeah, high B tier.
All right, moving on to Denon, the AHD 1001, which is also the Creative Orvana Alive or the EMU Purple Heart. I gave this a B tier. It's the first real headphone that I ever got, and I loved it at the time. That's not to say that it's without issues. But I like the bass a lot on it. Sort of this nice bouncy bass. So yeah, I gave it a B tier.
I would put it in B tier as well. I would say with the caveat that I don't think it sounds as good as a lot of the other headphones that we put in C tier, but this is like, how much is it again?
Dude, there was a deal going
$150
for this headphone recently that was selling for like $15, which is
Oh,
insane.
seriously? I thought that was a
Yeah.
typo.
It's crazy cheap. For the money, in terms of an over-ear headphone value proposition, I have to talk about that because that bumps it up to definitely B. I think that there are headphones in C tier that sound better, but for value, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, same. Same basically all around. Fun, bouncy bass, kind of weird mids, kind of weird treble, but for the price, you're not doing better than that.
The AHD 2000. I've also owned this headphone. I also gave it a B tier, similar to the D1001, maybe just a little bit better, but yeah.
I haven't heard this one.
I love this headphone. The first website I wrote for, the guy who owned it, let me try his for a week or two. And as far as like the biocellulose closeback headphones, like the Foster or Denon closeback, it's easily my favorite. It had the best mids, had the most polite, but still snappy bass, and had the most agreeable treble response. So yeah, love that headphone, which it was still made.
So the AHD 7200, I haven't put enough time into listening to that one to have a confident take here. But it did have really nice looking wooden cups, so that's good. I am going to rank the D9200 though. This one, I would put it into C tier at best for its default sound signature. I would not be able to listen to it without EQ. I did like it with EQ, but that's a story for another time. On to the DMS Omega. This might be a little bit controversial. It's interesting. I put this into B tier. I didn't love the mids, and I found the treble to be a bit shouty. It's not so much that the overall treble was too much. It's actually just the shape of the treble that was the problem for me. And so for that reason, I didn't love this one, but it was comfortable.
I'm kind of the same. I like a lot about this headphone. The one bit that was just a little bit objectionable was that there's just a bit too much 3 kilohertz. So I'd go B as well.
I went high C tier. I just find there's too much bass, too much upper mid-range, a weird treble response. I feel like if it had a little bit more lower mid-range, a lot of things about it would be fixed. But as of right now, it just sounds really thin and dry and then has a bunch of bass on top of that. So it sounds kind of incoherent. So C tier.
EMU Teak. I'm not going to rank this one. I've not enough time with it.
I quite like the bass on this one, especially for the price. The mids were a little objectionable. I can't remember exactly what it was about them I didn't like, but there was something going on there. The bit that drew it down was the treble. The treble was just kind of fatiguing for me, and so I would put this in probably D, but then I can see how it might be C on some people's heads.
Yeah, for me, it's a B tier. The treble is very rough on my head, but I really like the bass and mid-range of this headphone. Again, like the D2000, it has that biocellulose slammy kind of thing going on, and it's not totally like bereft of neutrality, but yeah, the treble's rough, so B tier at best.
FiiO FT1. I put this into B tier. I like it quite a bit for closeback. Good bass, decent mids, dark treble, but otherwise pretty solid.
I'd have to go A, to be honest. I think that whilst there are some more kind of fine-grained colorations to it, the general profile just fits really well, and for the value as well, it's pretty damn hard to beat. I'd go A.
For me, it's B tier. Good thumping bass, solid mids with a little bit of an extra textural push, and pretty rough treble, if I'm being honest. But the value is great, and it's a fun listen.
FiiO FT1 Pro, this is the planar, and I also put this into B tier. I think my only real issue with it is that it has the excursion limit problem, so if you did want to EQ the bass, that would be an issue. You wouldn't really be able to go high without it clipping. But for its just default sound signature, it's decently neutral, maybe just a little bit on the shouty side, but for the most part, solid.
Yeah, I'm the same. Comfortable B tier for me. Nothing really wrong with it. Pretty similar to the FT1, generally speaking. I actually like the treble on this one slightly more. I didn't encounter the excursion limit thing, but I don't play super loud, so...
Yep, same for me. B tier, just a little bit too bright.
FiiO FT13. I did not like this headphone. It doesn't couple correctly, and so it's just it's like it doesn't have the bass that it's supposed to have. So it's very lean and then harsh and scratchy in the treble. So C tier at best, maybe D tier.
I'm the same. It's just not enough low end, too much top end. It's just too bright, and so I couldn't really listen to it for very long. Only heard it at a show, but still. D tier, unfortunately.
All right, moving on to final audio. We only have one headphone in here, the D8000 Pro. I gave that a B tier. It's kind of weird sounding, but in a way where the colorations kind of work for me and for my kind of music, like for jazz and acoustic and orchestral. So for me, it's a high B. I just wish it were more comfortable.
I would have put this in A if it were not for comfort. It's just too heavy, too much of a hot spot. It presses down on my ears. I actually really like the sound of this one a lot, but I just could not wear it for more than 15-20 minutes at a time. So I would bump it down to a B for that.
For me, it's low C, high D. Yeah, I don't know. It's a planar with weird mid-range and weird treble. Not much to say that I like about it. Has pretty nicely extended bass, I guess.
Moving on to Focal. Focal Aurorus. This one I gave a B tier. The only issue for me was it's a bit weird in the ear gain because it's sort of a shifted response towards 3.5 kilohertz. And then there's a bit of a treble peak depending on the clamp pressure. So it depends, I guess, if you have a big head or if you're using a capper strap, which we'll talk about in a second. Cameron, how did you get on with this one?
I definitely got that treble peak. So the treble, I like the bass on this a lot. The mids were pretty decent. The kind of Focal typical signature in the mids, which I do quite like, but the treble just didn't really work for me unless I was kind of holding them with my hands to try and adjust the clamp a little bit. So I would put this in C.
Yeah, I have this in a B. I feel like the mids are solid enough, bass is solid enough, treble's a little bit weird. When you put a capper strap on, the mids warm up, the treble warms up a little bit. But it does also kind of make the comfort suffer. It makes it only fit small heads when you have that strap on, and the clamp gets a little bit too much as well. Yeah, no, I mean, it's already kind of a small headphone without it, so... but yeah, B tier.
Focal Batiste. I don't know if we want to rank this in terms of like the default sound signature or with like the dynamic mode.
I haven't heard it with the dynamic.
I'm counting this as dynamic. I think that given as it's a button, I think that's fine.
I give this a B. The main issue with this headphone is that it's quite variable at 1.5 kilohertz. So depending on the head that it's on, it could either be normal sounding or very honky. So it just depends on the person, I think.
Yeah, that bit works great for me. And with that dynamic profile on, easily one of the best sounding wireless headphones. So I would go A for this. The only thing that is an issue for me is it doesn't quite adjust big enough. So again, the comfort is a concern. But that's just because I have an enormous noggin.
For me, I've only heard it without the dynamic preset, and I would rate it the D tier, but I don't know what the dynamic preset sounds like. Really, most of my issue was with the treble, honestly. It was just really rough on my head, and I don't know if the dynamic mode would really fix that.
Focal Batiste MG, and again, same thing. There's the default, and then there's the dynamic mode here. I gave this an A for the dynamic mode. I think the default mode I like less because it's really forward in the low mids, so maybe Griff would like it. But no, for me, dynamic mode was A. Very Harman-like kind of sound signature overall.
Yeah, same for me. A again, and the comfort seemed better on this one.
It's got that really, really soft pad. Like the compliance
that
with the
helps.
pads is crazy. Yeah.
I haven't heard this one.
Focal Celeste. I put this in B tier. I think people don't like the soundstage because it's a bit too intimate, but that's kind of the Focal sound signature with that more forward character for that mid-range band, like between, I don't even know what it is now, like 1 and 3 kilohertz. But yeah, I put it into B tier overall. That sounds pretty good otherwise.
I'd probably go C, just because whilst I love the bass on this headphone, the mids and treble didn't work as well on my head. But yeah, so I think C.
Yeah, same for me, C tier. The mids are super lean, the treble's pretty sharp, but because of the mids being super lean and the bass being forward, it hits crazy hard. It might be one of the slamiest headphones I've ever heard, but the tone, I just can't do it. C tier.
Focal Clear. This one, I have it in, I think I have this in A tier. I recently just got another unit in and I've been listening to it. And the treble, I still don't love the treble, but this headphone, the bass and the mids, it hits so freaking hard for me. Like it's that perfect balance of like nimble, but also satisfying and impactful. So yeah, for me, the Clear is A tier.
Yeah, very dynamic sounding headphone. The one thing for me is just that vocals on it can be a little bit intimate because of that kind of focal 1 to 2 or 3 kilohertz thing. But otherwise, easily an A tier as long as you're not necessarily super focused on soundstage.
For me, it's B tier. Treble's a little bit rocky for me. Dark bright, as Andrew would say. And yeah, the mid-range shape is a little bit weird, but oh my god, it hits so hard. I cannot help but like this sound signature just because of what it does to drums. So yeah, B tier.
Focal Clear MG. I'm going to break some hearts here. I didn't like this one as much. I put it into low B to me. It's not like it's that different from the Clear. It's just that the treble profile ended up being smoother in one area, but like harsher in another. So for me, yeah, wasn't my kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm, again, exactly the same, actually. There was just some really high frequency peak that just bothered me too much. I imagine actually in 3 or 4 years' time, I'll probably come back to it and like it a lot more. But at the moment, I would put probably C.
Yeah, C tier for me too, basically for the same reasons.
Focal Elegia. I put this into C tier. The bass worked great for me. The mids are quite wonky, but I also found the treble worked reasonably well for me too. So yeah, C tier overall.
Haven't heard this one.
For me, it was a D tier. No part of that headphone worked for me. The mids were maybe a little okay, but the treble was super rough.
Really? I feel like the mids are like the weirdest part.
I don't know, dude. Like every part of that headphone is weird to me.
All right, moving on to the Focal Alex. Same as the Clear for me. It's just, they're very similar. So Alex is better value, but apart for the sound, they're pretty similar.
For me, this one works better into the treble in particular than the Clear. This is probably my favorite Focal headphone. This one's solid A tier for me.
I would say it's high B, low A for me. I think if we're rounding up, you guys both said A, so I guess we'll just put it as A. Yeah, it's a great headphone, and the treble does work a bit better for me as well.
Focal Hedenis. I put this one in high B tier. It's an open back with a bass boost that is mostly great, I think. It's just that the ear gain presentation is shifted up a little bit, again, similar to the Aurorus to 3.5 kilohertz, but that's really my only issue with it.
For me, the ear gain actually works pretty okay. It's just that I love the bass profile on it, I like the mids profile on it, and the treble works quite well. It's just, the best way I can put it is my technicalities just aren't quite there. So B.
Yeah, I have it as B tier too. It kind of reminds me of what the DMS Omega would be like if it was a little bit less papery. Like it has similar features where it's a little bit thin in the mids, obviously got a big bass boost, a little bit uneven in the treble, but I think it's a solid kind of mid-tier headphone. Yeah, B tier.
Focal Radiance. This is one of the Focal closebacks that I would have liked a lot if it was based on just one unit that I heard, because I heard another unit a little bit later on. Maybe they changed something with the pads where the bass was unhinged. It was ridiculous. I have it in B tier, but I think it kind of depends on if you get a version that is like normal for the bass or absurd for the bass.
I haven't heard this one.
For me, it's B tier. I think it's a very fun headphone, but there's just too much bass, too much treble brightness. The mids are too lean for me.
Focal Stellia. I have it in C tier. It has the most colorations and is the weirdest sounding of all the closeback headphones, but there are certain recordings where this kind of works. So yeah, C tier for me.
I haven't heard this one either. Well, I have, but it's been way too long since I tried it.
Yeah, for me, it's a C tier. It actually has the treble that works best for me of any of the closebacks in that style chassis, but the bass and the mid-range are also the weirdest. It has like the most bulbous bass in the mid-bass and then the shoutiest mid-range. So yeah, C tier.
All right, Focal Utopia 2022. So this is the newer version of the Utopia, which is slightly warmer than the original. And I found this one to be pretty good overall. Just not quite as special sounding as the original. It still has a couple of those quirks in the mids, but it's very blammy, just like the original as well. So I like this headphone a lot, particularly with the music that I like to listen to, just not quite as much as the original.
Yeah, I think that the 2022 is a better all-rounder headphone, and if it's going to be your main headphone, it's the better one to get, but it isn't quite as special as the original. I've ranked them both the same, just because I like both of them for different reasons. The original one was just a little bit more intense and in your face, which is what I wanted that headphone for, but then the new one just works better for more music. Still very punchy, treble works pretty great on me, super technical, pretty nice mids, even if a bit intimate. So I put both the 2022 and the OG, to be honest, in A tier.
I put the 2022 in B tier. I feel like the mid-forwardness of the original being made more mid-forward in the 2022 version just makes it boxy and kind of unengaging, kind of just weird sounding. So it just sounds very hollow and strange to me. Even though the treble works better on my head, I feel like it just has less interesting about it. So yeah, B tier. For the original, I'd put high B tier, if not A tier.
Now we're on to Fostex, the T50RP Mark III. Now I did hear this one at Munich High End. I did not like this headphone at all, but I don't know that I listened to it for long enough to put a ranking, but if I were to put a ranking, this would be in D tier.
Yeah, same. D tier. Very rough treble, weird mids, bass roll off. It's a pass.
Fostex TH900 Mark II. I also did not like this headphone. The bass is blammy, sure, but that's about all it had going for it. I put this into D tier as well.
Yeah, I don't know what to think of this one, because in terms of being slammy, there's a reason why it's recommended for that specifically above a lot of other headphones. The problem for me is that the treble is definitely fatiguing. I think that that's part of why it contributes to that slammy effect, but it means that for general listening, it kinda sucks. So D tier.
Yeah, I don't have, I think, nearly the treble issues with this headphone as other people do. I don't get the lower treble issue, at least. There's a 10K thing that bugs me, so it's a B tier. But yeah, the bass is so fun that I feel like it's pulling a lot of the weight there. But yeah, B tier.
Fostex TRX00 Mahogany.
Yeah, I got to try one of these recently at CanJam Dallas. Or actually, not that recently, it was last year. And I really liked it. I thought it was a very competent headphone, aside from a big 10 kilohertz peak that it had. But again, like the Denon Foster closed backs, like it reminded me a lot of the D2000, which I also quite like. So B tier.
All right, now we're on to Grado. And the fun thing about Grado is that you don't need to actually rank them all. You can just rank one of them. And no, there are some subtle differences among the various models, but they are all very similar. But as far as like the issues with them, they're all the same issues. And for that reason, these are straight to F tier. These are just outright terrible sounding to me. And they also crush your pin on the side of the head. There's nothing that I like about Grado headphones other than, I suppose, the fact that they're easy to mod.
Yeah, I don't actually know if I've heard this specific model, but I have never heard a Grado that I thought was anything other than an F tier, unfortunately.
I'm going to be a little bit more generous. I feel like they have a fun presentation for like rock music. It makes things super vivid. I put it in D tier because obviously I don't like it, but there's something interesting about it, I guess.
Let's move on to head audio. So we got the Headphone, the original headphone, the big toaster looking one. I actually rate this very highly. I put this in A tier. It has this, on some of the units, I think there's this really boxy kind of weirdness going on in the mids because of a driver mode. That wasn't like that on the unit that I ended up reviewing. And for the rest of its overall presentation, it was kind of great. So yeah, for me, that's an A tier.
I did hear this one, but not really, because unfortunately, I could not get it on my head. I could get it about halfway down my ears, and then that was about it. So I'm not going to give any impressions just because it was not situated at all how it's supposed to be.
I really liked this headphone. I put it in B tier. It had a really cool like lateral separation trick on my head. It was super detailed, had bass slam. The mids weren't terrible on the unit I tried. Yeah, I like this headphone. B tier.
Now we're on to the D1, their dynamic driver. I put this one into A tier. Not only does it sound good, it's very comfortable as well. Where that's where the other headphones sort of fell down for me, was the comfort. This one, they got that right. Also, the mid-range is some of the best mid-range on the board for me. Like the bass a lot. The only thing is I think that the ear gain, I think it could be a little bit less for me at 3.4 kilohertz. But apart from that, pretty solid.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same, but would add that I would add a little bit more sub bass to it. There is a little bit more roll off than I'd like. The main thing is just I kind of do have to adjust down the 3.5-ish kilohertz area a bit, else it's just a bit too intense. But everything else about it is fantastic and it's super comfortable, and just from a value standpoint, A tier.
I have it in high B tier. I find the mid-range, a little bit too forward at the ear gain peak, and the treble's just a little bit too much as well. Really like the bass. Comfort profile's pretty solid too. So high B tier. I guess we'll average it out to an A because you guys both said A though.
Headphone 2. I didn't like this one nearly as much as Headphone 1. The treble didn't work for me really at all, but they did fix the driver mode issue in the mids. So there was that. So I put this one into a low B.
I love this one. The treble worked fantastically on my head. It's a little lower than I would perhaps like, but not to an extent that I would feel any need to correct. The one thing about it that I did want to fix was just adding a bass shelf, but that's where the rule of... I'm talking with EQ here. Just add a bass shelf, and I love that headphone. Out of the box, it's a little bit too kind of just mid-range focused, but if you just add a bass shelf, I really, really like that headphone. I would put it in A. I would bump it down to a B for out-of-the-box sound.
Yeah, I have it as a B too. It's a little bit too dark for me. I'm a little bit too lean in the mids, so it's a little boxy sounding. But it's a interesting presentation of music that I feel like, because it's not bright, is never really fatiguing or super problematic. Definitely colored though, so B tier.
Headphone 2 GT. I like this one a lot. I put this into A tier, similar to the original headphone, but it's a very different sound. This has more of a bass focus to it, mid-bass presence to it. And but overall, it's like balanced with a couple of quirks throughout to make it sound also very incisive.
Yeah, this one I kind of feel basically the inverse of how I felt about the original Headphone 2, that there is just a bit too much mid-bass for me, and I kind of have to EQ that down. And then the treble doesn't quite work as well on my head, even though it's better in just overall level. So I like the out-of-the-box sound on this one more, and I would put that as a B, but it's just harder to EQ. So yeah, that one's sticking in B for me.
Yeah, I like this headphone a lot, more than the other two AMT-based headphones. Bass is really fun. Mid-range is a solid foil to the bass, and the treble is what I'll call flagship treble, and that it's a little rocky and uneven. But I think it's a respectable entry. Yeah, I'd put it high B tier.
Okay, now we're on to Hifiman. Hifiman Ananda. This is the non-unveiled version, and I have this in B tier, but it's very difficult to really say this is B tier because the Ananda that I heard and that I reviewed was like from years ago, and they're now on like the Nanos and the Super Neo whatever, and it's very difficult to actually know what Ananda people are buying today. And I believe that the newer ones are actually worse. So I would probably put the newer ones, like the peakier treble ones, in C tier. But the one that I reviewed was at least a B tier.
Yeah, the Ananda Nano was very bright. The original Ananda I did quite like. The comfort wasn't the best thing for me, just because that headband design is not great. But in terms of overall sound, the main thing is that now that you can get an Aria Stealth for about the same money, just get that. That's just better, in my opinion. But I'd say C tier for the Ananda original.
I also had it in C tier for reasons I'm sure you could guess. Way too bright. Mids are weird. It's got Hifiman treble. Now that we're in the Hifiman range, you're going to see me pulling down the average of basically all of these headphones. So strap in, people.
All right. Yeah.
No, this is why we need to have different perspectives, right?
Yeah.
So we need to have, like the warm poo with the hyper detailed, we got to combine it all. Hifiman Ananda unveiled. This one was too lean and too bright for me. The treble on my head was just too much. It's funny because like if you zoomed out enough, the overall balance is actually kind of nice. It's just too much on my head.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. I did a roundup of all the new Hifiman, and it's just a little bit too kind of 5-6 kilohertz-ish. Most of the other stuff's okay, but just when things like, as we'll get onto, the Edition XV exist, I just don't think it makes sense. I'd put it in probably D, just because it's a little too fatiguing.
Yeah, it's in C tier for me, but yeah, I could see D makes sense too.
Considering there's basically no chance I rate this thing anything above a C, I think it's probably comfortably in C tier, if not D tier.
You will hate this headphone.
Okay, so D tier.
Yeah, you will not like this one.
Aria Organic. Yeah, so this one's kind of the more brighter, but also a little bit more U-shaped presentation overall, like subtly, right? I put this into B tier, but again, I if you're treble sensitive, like this has a lot of treble.
I'm not usually, treble sensitive, but I would put it in D tier, honestly, just because there is just too much treble for me. I like a lot of the other Hifiman headphones and their treble presentation, but this one was just too much. Even though the bass on it's great. I like the bass on this a lot more than most other Hifiman headphones, but it's just too fatiguing for me. So I unfortunately put it D.
I'm bumping it down to C tier as well. It's too much for me.
Well, I'm going to bump it down further to D tier because holy crap, it is so bright. Total miss for me.
All right, now we're on to Hifiman Aria Stealth. And I put this into, this should be in C tier for me because for similar reasons, it's very similar to the other one, but that brightness is not just focused more towards the upper treble. I think on the Aria Stealth, it's more just the whole treble is just a lot. But again, for soundstage heads, this is probably going to be higher up on that list.
For me personally, this one I've got a bit of a special soft spot for. This one's a solid A tier for me. The combination of the slightly elevated mid-bass compared to most of other Hifiman's headphones, and the fact that it is slightly bright, but I don't get any objectionable narrow peaks or anything like that on my head. This is one that I've spent a lot of time listening to and do like a lot. So this one for me is a solid A tier.
And then for me, it's a solid F tier. It is probably the brightest Hifiman headphone I've heard. It's the one that bothers me the most. I've heard 2 separate units and it happened for both of them. It is just screaming upper treble, but also the weirdest lower treble of any of the Hifimans I've heard, like very scratchy, dry, papery. Yeah, I do not like this headphone at all. So your A, my F. Andrew, what did you rank it?
I think I put C. It's basically the same.
Okay, so
as
C. So C
I rated it the same as the organic. Just not as good bass as the organic. Aria Unveiled. This is a weird one because out of the box without EQ, I have a bit of a problem with that resonance at what is it, like 5 kilohertz? It's not even a resonance, like a forwardness.
Yeah, it's about 5 kilohertz.
Yeah, something like that. But if I reduce just that one thing, this becomes an A tier headphone for sure. So yeah, I would put it in A tier, but if I couldn't do any kind of EQ, it would probably be closer to B.
I would actually go as far as to say that the 5 kilohertz bothers me enough that I'd put it in C tier out of the box. But once you fix that, I'd almost be tempted to put it in S tier, but definitely A. With that 5 kilohertz area EQ down a bit, it is absolutely fantastic, but I do really feel that that needs to be done.
Yeah, I don't experience the same treble smoothness you guys do with the unveiled headphones above a certain frequency, so it's more than just the 5 kilohertz issue for me, so it's a C tier headphone.
But see, this is where, for me, I have a bit of a distinction between like the C tiers and the F tiers, because now we're onto the Hifiman Audevina, which for me is comfortably an F tier. Like that is...
Straight to the bin.
We can just play the clip of me crying.
Did you actually cry in that video?
Not in a good way. It's horrible. This is just as horrible as the first one. This is, out of everything on the list, this is the only one where I gave the bass, mids, and treble a 1.
Me too.
Yeah, there's nothing good about it.
It's a closed back that doesn't even isolate as well. Just this headphone should not exist.
It's just bad across the board. But then we also get much better value here, coming in at a fraction of the price, the Audevina LE. It's the same headphone.
I'm leaving.
F tier. Hifiman Edition XS. For many, it's been the value king. I have this in B tier. It is not quite as bright, at least on my head, as the Aria series. I find it to be not as spacious as those, but also a bit more tolerable for a wider range of stuff. There is a bit of a peak in the treble, though, at like 9K for me. Yeah, B tier.
For me, I'd say B tier as well. This one's always been a bit of a value, fantastic option. It's kind of an Aria light for me. I do prefer the Aria Stealth and the original Aria as well, but it's for the money. This one's always been a good option, and I'd put it solid B.
For me, it's a C tier. It's just kind of a sneaky V shape, a little bit too warm, bassy, but also very bright up top. Inexpensive, at least.
Now we're on to the new one, the Edition XV. I gave this one a high B because it's the warm Hifiman. I feel it's just still not quite there for me in the treble. Like it's almost too warm, but for anybody who's treble sensitive but likes the rest of the characteristics of many of these Hifiman products, that would probably be the one to go for.
Yeah, I'd put this one in A just because I think that for where most Hifimans are a little bit bright, this one's going to sit much better. For me, I prefer the slightly brighter presentation, but with the exception of my technicalities, this one overall I think is just tuned exceptionally well. I like the look of it as well. It's comfortable on my head. I'd put this one in A, especially given the value. $400 for this, I think, is really good.
Yeah, probably no surprise to anyone, but this is a very solid A tier for me. When you consider that it has full bass extension and reasonable treble response, like it's not filled to the brim with brightness or anything like that, those two things alone at $400 make it a compelling offering. But the mid-range is also fine. Fairly comfortable on my head. Yeah, A tier, easily.
Hifiman HER10D. This is not the Plano, this is the Dynamic, and I feel like I've heard this, and I feel like I ran away screaming, but somebody else can confer.
It's bad.
Yeah, I honestly don't have any particular feelings on this because I literally tried it for 20 seconds going, nope, that's not for me. It's just very wonky. So that's I F tier, actually.
I think it would be wrong of us to put a Hifiman close back anywhere but F tier.
So the planar is also very comfortably in F tier. This was, I couldn't believe it. Now we're on to the HE1000 Unveiled. This one is similar to the Aria Unveiled with a slightly different treble profile. It's not quite as 5 kilohertz-ish, at least on my head, but there's almost maybe more treble in the rest of the response up there. But I liked it quite a lot. This one for me is in A tier as well.
This one I'd put B, just because the treble does not sit well on my head. Not as well as the Arias do. I just outright prefer the Aria Stealth to this. It's a good headphone. I did enjoy it, but when the Aria Stealth is better, for me anyway. B.
Comfortable C tier. It's just too bright. Not really much else to say.
Moving on, Hifiman HE400 SE. I put this one into C tier. It's pretty good at that price. It rolls off a bit in the bass, and then there's a bit of a peak of death at around 9 kilohertz, at least on some heads, on my head, and the rest of the response is okay.
Haven't heard this one.
Really? Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, somehow I've never tried the HE400 SE.
To me, it's a D tier. I think the mids on this one are really, really bad. It is simultaneously honky and really muffled. I feel like kind of like an Audeze kind of thing, but the treble is also more bothersome, and there's no like bass extension like the Audeze stuff. So yeah, for me, it's a D tier. So I guess we'll average out to a, what did you say? B tier?
I said C.
Okay, so C, D. I'm willing to be generous because of the price and say it's a C tier.
Hifiman HE6.
And just to be clear, this is the original HE6, not the HE6 SE V2 and stuff. This is the original one.
I'm going to ask Andrew to evaluate the sound with the velour pads, not the Sundara pads.
Aww. Well, then it's like a C tier.
Okay, I mean, that's fine. That's the sound of that headphone. No one puts Sundara pads
right
on that thing.
That's true.
I'd go B, but I'm so tempted to put it into an A just because it is so much fun. I really like that headphone, even though it is a little wonky. Like, the mid-range is probably one of the wonkiest of the open-back Hifimans, but just something about its presentation is punchy and just the right amount of in your face. I just vibe with it. I'd go B.
Yeah, no, I give it a B too. Crazy bright on my head, but also some of the funnest bass and kind of snappiest mid-range I've heard in headphones. Super vivid, super fun. B tier.
The HE600, I give this one a high B tier. This one, it's basically Sundara Plus, right? Like, it's pretty similar to a Sundara. It's a bit overpriced in my opinion. The only complaint I have is that in the low treble, it's just really close to being glary for me, so it's not quite as versatile. But I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I'm similar. I definitely high B. I think that this is one of my favorite Hifiman headphones that's been released in a while. The treble works quite nicely on my head, even though I can see why it wouldn't for others. But they're just slightly elevated mid-bass. It's punchier than others. I just really like this one, so I'd put it high B.
HE6 SEV2. This one is, I actually think, timbrally better than the HE6, so I'm going to put it into B tier.
It is timbrally better, but then it just loses all the magic the original HE6 had. And I just, we have HE6 at home. And no, I'd put this one C tier. I just didn't really enjoy this one anywhere near as much.
I have another theory on that as well, because I think you're right. Part of it is definitely down to the original pads imparting those unique colorations that make it that more, as Griffin would say, the fireworks show. But I also think that because there's a change to the baffle structure slightly, it may also be that one of them's incurring an air gap where the other one's not. If I put pads, like those other pads on an HE6, they just spin freely around. Whereas on the HE6 SE and the V2, they have that clip system. So that might also be changing the actual in-situ behavior for people.
I mean, the tuning is also very different. Like, the HE6 SE is more like an HE400 SE, where it's very dipped in the 2K region. But it's also kind of the smoothest Hifiman in the upper treble, aside from the Edition XV. Yeah, I mean, I gave it a C because it's quite muffled sounding because of that darkness and the big 2K dip, but it's respectable. It's fine.
Moving on to the Sundara 2020. I also gave this a B, a low B. yeah, it's just decent across the board. I don't really have too much to complain about. It doesn't sound particularly technical, as the kids say, but yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I'm pretty similar. It's for the money, I think it's perfectly solid. It's a little rougher in the treble for me, a little bit more fatiguing, and it doesn't quite have the bass extension that I would want, but for the money, not really much to complain about.
This is not as dipped in the mids as the traditional sort of Hifiman sound signature is.
No, but I think the other bits of it are more objectionable to me. I'd say C, probably.
I would be with Cameron on C. Yeah, the treble is still rough for me. Mids are fine, but the bass also doesn't have much going on. So, C tier.
Hifiman Sundara closed. F tier.
Into the bin. Next.
I haven't had the pleasure, but I think we can guess. F tier.
Hifiman Susvara. This is the original Susvara, so not the unveiled. I have this in A tier. It's no secret. The treble works extremely well for me with this headphone. The only issue I have with it is that it is a bit dipped in the mid-range, like in the upper mids, like between 1 and 3 kilohertz. There's that typical sort of dip in that band. But everything else is just about perfect for me. I'd like to give it a bass shelf too if I could. But yeah, no EQ even. This is still A tier for me.
Yeah, without EQ, I would say A tier. I think it's no secret that I like a little more soundstage, so I actually quite enjoyed that little bit more of a dip. If you put a bass shelf on this, though, that's all you need. The treble works great for me. This is S tier for me. I really, really like this Susvara OG. With just a little bit of extra bass, it's fantastic.
Well, it's a middle B tier for me. I don't really perceive anything special about it. The mids are okay. The bass is okay, and the treble is less bad than a lot of the other like oval-shaped Hifiman headphones, but only by a little bit. I still have issues in the low treble and the upper treble, so B tier, yeah. So I guess overall A tier. All
right, so Hifiman Susvara unveiled. So this one, for the sound, they filled in that mid-range dip of the original Susvara, but then there's also more lower treble. So I prefer the original Susvara overall because I feel its treble presentation is a better fit for me, even though I like the mids better on the Susvara unveiled. I also just have to note, this is not a headphone that I generally recommend because I think it's like not a good idea to have something that fragile, like so easy to poke holes through. And people don't realize how fragile that is. So even if you don't go angle grinding with it. Anyways, how do you get on with it?
So I do prefer the OG for the simple reason that it's not even the excess lower treble on the Susvara unveiled, it's the fact that it's more focused around kind of 4 kilohertz. That just doesn't sit as well on my head. So whilst I do find the Susvara unveiled more detailed, and I think overall timbre generally is a little bit better because of that slightly more filled in 2 kilohertz stuff, I perceive it as a little bit more bass light because of the extra upper treble, and the treble focus on 4 kilohertz just doesn't work for me as well. So it's technically more detailed, but then I just prefer the sound of the OG. So I'd put this one in low A, I think.
I put it in B tier again. I actually do prefer the original Susvara as well. I find that because the unveiled raises that 2 kilohertz energy a little bit, it undoes the warm tilt in the mid-range a little bit too much, and it just becomes a unilaterally bright headphone instead of a warm bright headphone, and warm bright is just a little bit more balanced to me. So B tier. I think overall we're going A tier on this, but it's a fine headphone.
Koss. So I hate all of these. The on-ear ones specifically. So the KPH 30i, we're going to stick with that one. I have this in C tier. I hate on-ear headphones, and so that's why to the bin it goes for me. But for the sound specifically, it's fine, just nothing special.
I would put this in C. I think it sounds pretty damn good for the price and for the fact it is an on-ear headphone. I don't like on-ear headphones either, and I would pick something else. I mean, there's a lot of IEMs which sound significantly better, but nonetheless, this is a surprisingly unobjectionable headphone for the most part, and so I'd say probably C.
Yeah, same. C for all of the same reasons. Decent tuning, inexpensive, not much I can really hate about it.
KSC 75, about the same for me. I feel like I like the sound of this one less, but it's been a minute since I've heard it, so.
I haven't heard this one.
It's another C tier. Same thing. It's just a little bit brighter, and because it doesn't have the headband, it's less bassy as well. You can put a headband on it to get more bass, but still C tier.
And I do the same for the Koss Porta Pros. I think it's like, again, for what they are, the sound is okay. But for whatever reason, with a Porta Pro specifically, maybe it's because it crushes my pinna in a unique way that the other ones don't, but I hear a much stronger resonance in the low treble than I get on the other ones. Apart from that, it's fine.
No, I feel pretty similar about these as I do on the KPH-30Is. It's not the best headphone. It's not a bad headphone. I prefer other form factors generally. But, I mean, can we give points for fashion? Like, if you see a bunch of people with, AirPods Max and stuff, and then you see a guy with Koss Porta Pro, you go, that guy knows what's up.
Hell yeah.
No, I actually think less of people when I see them wearing Koss Porta Pros.
Boo.
C.
Yeah, it's a C for me too. It doesn't get any extra points to the sound score for its drip, but I must acknowledge the drip is real. It is probably my favorite of the three of them because it is the darkest and bassiest, and I feel like for that kind of headphone, I want as much bass as possible. So C tier, but a respectable C tier.
Now we're on to Meze 105 AER. I did not like this one. This one was too many peaks in weird places in the treble for me. I put this into C tier.
I would put it in C as well. On initial listen, I felt that I may have preferred it to the 109 Pro. Actually, having listened to it more since then, I actually don't feel that that's the case. The treble is just a little bit too kind of papery. There's something in the upper mids, lower treble going on that just changes things a little bit too much. I did enjoy it. It's still actually quite a headphone I quite like, but I think probably a comfortable C overall.
Yeah, same. C tier for me. Rough in the treble, dry, sandy, yucky, too much bass. It's okay.
Did you guys hear the 105 Silva?
Yes, but I can't really remember too much, if I'm honest. So
okay, I would place the Silva also in C tier. Similar reasons. It's less fatiguing up there, but still not great in my opinion. Meze 109 Pro. This one might be a little bit polarizing. I put this into low B tier. I think it's a V-shaped kind of sound. Yeah, it's a bit quirky in the treble, but I don't know. I found myself enjoying it.
I'm the same. Definitely a B. I would at times almost be tempted to put it in A. The treble just works really nicely for me. I think it's comfortable. I think it looks great. I should clarify, it's not that the treble fits in terms of a neutral presentation or HRTFE presentation. It's that some of the treble colorations that are there, I like the effect that some of them have. It's just a little more intense without being outright fatiguing, and that's quite fun. Plus the fact that it is pretty punchy. High B, maybe leaning towards a low A, but probably say B.
It's a C tier for me. It sounds like a Sennheiser HD 599, but put in a nicer looking chassis. It's really gritty treble, mid scoop, over bass sound signature. Not a fan.
Moving on to the 99 Classics V2. I'm not sure if you guys have this on your list or if you guys have heard it. I use this headphone every day because it isolates so freaking incredibly well. The default sound signature is... So I have a hard time putting it in anything higher than B, maybe even C, right? You have two sound signatures, one without foam inserts, one with. It's brighter without the foam inserts. It's darker, more muffled with, and I wanted something in between. So with the paper towel mod, it's a B tier headphone. With the foam insert or without the foam insert, it's going to be C tier for both of those. Meze Elite, I put this into B tier. It's a really wonky kind of sound, but in a way that it's a little bit charming somehow to me. Very warm sound with a little bit of sort of upper treble, I don't know what to call it, cascade, shimmer, air. But I like it a lot better than the Meze Empyrean, like the original Empyrean. So yeah, I put this into B tier. Very comfortable overall.
I think solid B for me. This one took the original Empyrean, which I feel like I kind of have to talk about first. That one, it was a very, very cozy sounding headphone that was just too expensive for what you got. The Empyrean family overall is probably one of the nicest built looking, most comfortable headphones for me in terms of the luxury aspect of a high-end headphone. Absolutely nails it. The Empyrean just wasn't really detailed, whereas the Elite kind of fixed that a little bit, but it's still very similar to the Empyrean. It just was a better version of it. So I'd say B as well.
It's a C tier for me. I feel like all of the comfort and build stuff doesn't really matter to my evaluation of the sound with those headphones. They always still sound weird to me. Elite is one of the better ones for me. I do like it more than any of the Empyrean lineup, but still a C tier for me.
Meze Empyrean 1, the original. So I have this in C tier. I actually really like the ear gain presentation overall, and that's a region that I'm particularly sensitive to. It's the right shape and the right bounce and the right level. But the problem is that with that being more relaxed, in contrast to the ridiculous amounts of upper treble that it has, it just ended up being a consistent problem for me. So I put that into C tier.
Yeah, I'd go C as well. It's a very cozy, warm sounding headphone. It's one of the better, less wonky, warm sounding headphones, which is nice, but it just doesn't really have all that much which I'd say is impressive about it besides the physical build. So in terms of sound, I think C tier, and just the fact that Elite exists, and I think it's just a better version of it, means that it's a little bit redundant for me. So C.
Yeah, it's gonna be a C tier for me too. Just too warm and too bright. Yeah, not really much interesting to say about it. It's just kind of a stereotypical warm, bright headphone. Not really much interesting about it.
All right, Meze Empyrean 2. So this basically took that warm, bright sound signature and made it V-shaped. And I actually have this rated quite highly. I have this in low A, high B, low A. For a V-shaped sound signature, this is one of my favorites.
Yeah, I'm A as well. Kind of more middling A, but definitely an A. It's got a little bit more of a kind of contrasty effect to it with vocals and stuff without messing up timbre outright. And that's really good fun. It's punchy. It sounds pretty spacious as well to me. It's just doing a lot of things I like. Yeah, solid A.
Y'all are insane. Y'all are glazing a bad headphone. Like, just, I see nothing good about this headphone. Like, okay, no, you know what? The bass is well extended. That is the only good thing I could think about of this headphone. The mids are terrible. Like, there is a very weird suck out that makes everything sound muffled and strange. Like, the timbre is bad. And then the treble is like the worst of any of Meze's headphones. It is just unilaterally bright, but especially in the low treble. Yeah, absolutely it's the worst of any of their headphones. Except maybe the Lyric 2 is so piercing in the upper treble that it might eke it out. But yeah, the Empyrean 2 is like one of the roughest headphones I've ever heard. Yeah, for me it's a D tier. So 2 A tiers and a D tier.
All right, let's move on. Meze Lyric 1. I did not like this headphone. There's a really strange mid-range presentation to it. Also strange treble. So I put this into C tier.
It's a D for me. The mids are just way too wonky. The bass on it's pretty fun. The treble it's not great, but it's not terrible. But the mid-range was just weird. I couldn't really even work out what was going on. So for me, the Lyric, unfortunately, was a solid D.
Yeah, for me, it was a C tier. It had an interesting texturing thing in the mid-range. It kind of sounded like an IEM. It's a C tier. I do really like how that headphone looks, I will say.
Now to the Lyric 2, which I thought was quite a bit better. Like, I would put it up a tier from the Lyric 1. So if the Lyric 1 is in D, this one's a C tier for me. I would be tempted even to put it in B, actually, because they fixed the mid-range problem, basically. It's just that the other issues that I had with it still persisted in a weird way. So, which was in the treble. So B or C.
The mid-range is definitely improved on the Lyric 2, which was nice, but for me, there was a much more glaring problem introduced, quite literally, in the form of just an enormous treble peak, which I just couldn't do it. It stays in D, unfortunately, for me.
For me, it's a C tier headphone. As you say, mids are fixed. Treble is worse. That's in C tier.
Next one is the Meze Poet. I put this in C tier as well. It didn't do anything horrible for me. It just wasn't, it was sort of nothing special, and I felt it was a bit on the dull side overall.
Yeah, I think I like this one better than the Lyric or Lyric 2. It doesn't have the same glaring treble issues. It's just still pretty wonky throughout the mids and treble generally. I could listen to this one though, so I'll bump it up to a C, but it wasn't one that I really enjoyed. Unfortunately, the Lyric platform just doesn't work for me.
This was like if you took the Modhouse Tungsten and took away the exciting things about it.
That's so funny. Literally, in terms of the numerical score, I have them at exactly the same score. The Poet and the Tungsten, I have them at 5.08. Which, yeah, the Poet is a B tier. It is the first B tier that Meze has on my list. I think it's just their most defensible mid-range tuning, and the treble only has an upper treble issue for me. The rest of it was fine.
Moving on to the Modhouse Tungsten. Again, a very similar tuned headphone to the Meze Poet, but without the quarter wavelength resonance mask or whatever they call it.
I think they used AMTS on Poet.
AMTS, yeah, they used the Dan Clark thing on AMTS, or on the Poet. So yeah, maybe that's the reason why the Poet doesn't work for me and the Modhouse Tungsten does. But for the sound of the Tungsten with, I believe, the suede pads, that's an A for me.
Yeah, solid A for me on the Tungsten. Honestly, there's two slight concerns with the Tungsten. Yeah, dual-sided. I haven't actually spent time with the single-sided one. There's a little bit of an 8 kilohertz peak, which goes away if you take the grills off. And also doesn't really bother me much anyway, so I just leave mine on. That's one of my favorite sounding headphones generally. It's just an absolute pain to drive if you listen loud. It's the only headphone on this list which I would say you really kind of do need to consider what amp you get with it.
Fair enough. It is a low B tier for me. I don't really love that headphone. Mids are a bit too warm. Treble's warm bright is a B tier, but you guys said it's A tier, so it's an A tier for the overall.
Moondrop Cosmo. I like this headphone a lot. I put this into A tier. It's lean in the mids, but it's kind of dark in the treble, which sort of works to balance things out. It's quirky, and it has a bit of a unique kind of flair to it. Actually, no, I need to bump this down. This goes into B tier. I'm realizing we can't do pad swaps.
We cannot.
With the default pads, this isn't B tier then for me. It's too forward there at around 1 kilohertz. With the pad mod, this would go to A tier for me. But yeah, without, it's in B tier. That's the Yaxi comfort pads for the TH6, whatever, the Fostex series headphones.
Well, for me, it's a B tier, a solid B tier. Yeah, too lean in the mids, but a nice treble presentation, full extension, and overall tilt that makes sense is what I'll say. So yeah, B tier.
Moondrop Horizon. I have this in C or D, so low C, high D. This is basically if you took an HD 650 and made it just about everything about it worse.
Yeah, I didn't try this one, but I was with you when you tried it at Munich and saw your face and didn't feel super inclined to then go and listen. So
it feels like it should be better because it's like it's close on everything. It just is like it's the ratios are somehow wrong. Like yeah, like if the balance for the upper mids to the treble had been just a little bit better, this could go all the way up to a B tier in my opinion. But it just is not quite there.
Yeah, it's a D tier for me. One of the few headphones I've encountered that is just like too dark, way too early of a bass roll off for this kind of design. Mids are okay, but yeah, it's just not a very well put together sound signature.
Have you heard the Para 2? Has anybody else heard the Para 2?
No.
Para 2 would be B tier, maybe C tier. C tier without a pad swap, but with a pad swap, it can go all the way up to an A tier.
So C tier.
C tier, yep, C tier. Next, we got the Moondrop Venus. I have this in B tier, like a low B tier. It's kind of Hifiman-esque for its overall sound signature, just with maybe some fewer jaggies in certain spots. But overall, I liked the mid-range on this. I thought it was a bit lean, though, still, and didn't have enough low frequency energy for me.
Yeah, so Venus for me was definitely a C tier headphone. It kind of just reminded me of the Hifiman signature, so fits in kind of squarely with where those would be ranked for me. I would say it wasn't as bright as some of the Hifiman headphones, like the Aria Stealth, and there was a bit more of a palpable bass weight going on, but not enough to bring it up to B tier.
All right, Neumann NDH30. I don't have a strong opinion on this headphone because it doesn't sound like all that much to me. And not necessarily in a bad way either. It just sounds a little bit dull. So I don't like the treble on it, but the bass and the mids I thought were fine. So I would put this in high C.
This one's such a weird one for me because everything about the bass and the mids all the way up until kind of 2 kilohertz, I think, is fine. And then the upper treble is mostly fine, a little bit kind of dulled. But then, despite everything about it being fine, there's just a ton of, I think it was about 4 kilohertz or something, which just made it almost unlistenable for me. On my head, that headphone just does not work. So for me, it's a D.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a good headphone. It's a C tier for me. It's like the Horizon, strangely one of the too dark headphones out there for even me. And it makes the bass extension, which is well extended, sound too bassy. It just sounds overall dull and muddy for me.
So moving on to the Philips, we have the grain silo itself, the Fidelio X2 HR. Big bass, mids are okay, but the treble is a problem. Not a fan of this headphone. I'd put this into C tier at best, low C maybe.
Yeah, same for me. Same complaints. I do think the mid-range is actually like worse than it may look on a graph. There's this like weird resonance around 1.5, 1.8 kilohertz that really bothers me with that headphone. But yes, also the treble is just wrong with that headphone.
All right, now we're on to the SHP 9500. This is a headphone. It's kind of like if you just didn't have the bass. Of the X2 HR.
Yeah, it's very similar.
I don't know what else to say about it. It's a headphone. It's okay. I put it into C tier as well. Like I didn't really split hairs between the two, but they do sound different. Same. It's like one of them is a V-shaped grain silo, the other one's a not V-shaped grain silo. So I don't.
Yeah, the other one's just 9500 is just bright.
Moving on to the Philphone. I have this in C tier. The bass is super fun, the mids are fine, and the treble is also a problem for me. It's just too much.
Yeah, similar-ish to me. I have it in B tier. I do think it's probably one of the only headphones that has that combination of bass, texturing, and dynamism and spaciousness. Like, I don't know of anything else that does both of those things as well as it does, but the tone doesn't work for me at all. It's too bright in some spots, too dark in others, but it's a fun headphone.
If we're listening to like just electronic music, that would be one of the first ones I would go to.
It's fun as hell for that. I have used it for that when I've had it in. It's also really good for gaming. Not necessarily for like competitive stuff, but like the immersion factor is fantastic.
So now we're on to the RAAL. So the RAAL Imanus. Didn't love this one.
I'm sure the comments on this will be sensible and reasonable.
Yeah, it's a D tier for me. It's, you know.
Really?
Yeah. To me, this is like kind of wonky in just about every part of its frequency response. And then the treble is just murder death, at least on my head. So yeah, D tier.
The bass on it is okay. It rolls off a little bit too early. The mids are mostly fine until you start getting to the enormous soundstage dip around 2 kilohertz, which just make vocals sound wrong. And then the treble is unfortunately just a bit of a mess on my head. I don't get the murder death spike that some people do, or at least not quite as bad. It's definitely fatiguing, but it's not painful. I'd give it a C. It's one that I totally get why people like. It's just, for me, it's just too wonky.
I am surprised that I am the person who likes this headphone the most among the three of us.
What?
I am too, actually.
I find the bass pretty fun. Like, it's definitely playing with that mid-range coloration. There's a slight 1 kilohertz bump and a slight 2 kilohertz recession. So it's got this mix of like the snappy dynamism of something like an HE6 or Focal, not as intense, but also kind of a spaciousness thing going on. Obviously, timbre is not great. But it's a fun headphone. The treble does kind of just suck on my head, but most flagship headphones do. And I feel like I get why with this headphone, people hear it the way they do. Like it's a fun, expressive listen. It's just not my jam.
If your interpretation of those colorations is like mega technicalities, mega detail or whatever, like I can see a person gravitating towards that for the handful of recordings where that really works. But to me, this is like, again, I go through all of my test tracks with this stuff and I have those go-to tracks, and when it fails so hard at those, I know that it's not going to be palatable for me for the rest of my music. So would never want to listen to that on a regular basis.
Yeah, I get you. Again, it's a B tier for me, right? So it's fine.
So C tier overall.
Yep, C tier overall.
RAAL SR1A/B. This is the ear speaker one that they do. I like this one better than the Imanus. It just is a bit more coherent overall to me, particularly for the ear gain, even though I do find it a little bit forward at around 2 kilohertz. But apart from that, I guess the only other issue would be that it kind of rolls off in the bass, but that's just the nature of that design, so I kind of forgive it that a little bit. But I like the rest of the presentation overall, so I put this one in B tier.
This one is one that I like a lot more. Actually, I will say that the mids and treble are pretty variable depending on how you adjust them and how you have them fit. I did have to play about with it quite a lot. Once I got that right, though, honestly, I absolutely adore the mids and treble on this. There isn't bass. It just doesn't do it. I actually listened to them with stereo subwoofers, which was great. If you have a subwoofer that you're willing to use with headphones, for some reason, this is an A tier for me. If not, then it probably goes down to about a C, just because there just isn't bass. But if you have something to fill that bit in, I really like the rest of what this is doing, and I would put it in an A, but call it a B overall.
Yeah, for me, it's a B tier headphone. I quite like the mid-range timbre on it, and because the driver is sitting at kind of a distance, I don't have the treble issues I typically have with other headphones. It just sounds fairly natural to me, if bass light and a little bit honky in the mids. But it's a fun headphone experience. I do quite enjoy it, and nothing sounds really terrible with it. So yeah, B tier.
All right, moving on to the HD 490 Pro Sennheiser. So the sound here, I actually have it in low B. I know that the sound is not as good as the HD6. For me, at least, it's not as good as the HD600, some of the others in the 6 series, 6XX as well, or the 550. But I think it is respectable, and I feel it's the kind of sound signature that is like HD800S Lite. So for people who wanted that more spacious kind of presentation, this would be better than the 6 series. So I have it in B tier.
I have it in C tier. I just find the treble way too rough on this headphone, in a distinctively like Sennheiser 5 series kind of way. It's just got this sandy, grainy character to the 4 to 6 kilohertz region that really bothers me on both of the pads that are available. As much as I would want to give it more credit for its comfort and industrial design, in terms of sound, it's a C tier headphone.
Moving on to the HD 505. I like this headphone a lot. I put this into B tier. I put it into high B tier. I like the sound better than the 490 Pro, for example.
I do too.
Really good mid-range, really good bass, really good treble. Well, for an open back, let's say.
This one I was super in the middle of the road. It wasn't necessarily doing anything all that wrong, but just the upper treble wasn't really there enough for me, and then the sub bass wasn't really there enough for me, and so it just sounded a little bit boring. I'd probably say C. It's not a bad headphone, but I just, again, wasn't feeling inclined to smile.
Yeah, it's a fairly high C tier for me. The mid-range is just a little bit too aggressive and up-tilted. The treble, again, kind of in that 5 Series way, is a little bit too rough. It is well extended in the bass, but it's kind of like an in-between of the 560S and the 550, where it's just not quite warm enough to sound natural to me, but it's competent. So C tier.
For the HD 550, I have it basically the same as the 505. They're very similar, so this is in B tier for me as well. For me, I like the mids and the treble a little bit more. Well, particularly the treble a little bit more on the 550.
Exactly the same for me. I like the treble a little bit more. It's still, I get what Griff's talking about with this sort of slightly sandy almost aspect of it, but overall pretty good. Honestly, the bigger issue here is just that the sub bass just rolls off too much for me. So I'd say probably still C, but higher C.
Yeah, the 550 does enough for me to knock it over the line to B tier. Solid headphone, good mid-range, decent bass extension for an open Sennheiser can. Still a little bit too rough and sandy in the treble for sure, but yeah, B tier.
Moving on to the HD 560S. I have this one in C tier. It's good for the bass, good for the mids, and the treble gets a bit on the spicy side, a bit on the zingy side for me. But apart from that, I think it's pretty darn good.
Same here. Better bass, decent mids. Treble still a little bit rough, but nothing too crazy. C tier.
This is right on the edge of D tier for me, but I do have it in low C tier. The bass extends, but there's no amplitude, so it just sounds super limp and thin. The mids are too forward tilted, kind of like the 505. And then, yeah, the treble's even rougher than the other ones. So C tier, but a low C tier.
HD 569, C tier for me. Just too dull for me overall. So low C.
Haven't heard this one.
Yeah, I actually really like the treble of this one, but the mid-range is too forward tilted in that typical closed back fashion, so too little low mids, too much upper mids, and then the bass is quite boomy and weird sounding. I do still use the one I have here quite often just as like a throw around closed back, just because that chassis is really nice, but in terms of sound, it's a C tier.
Sennheiser HD 580 Precision. This is like an HD 600, just more shouty. At least that was the one that I got to check out. So I put this into C tier overall. High C.
For me, it's a B tier. It is the brightest of the 6 Series family. I've heard some units that just sound like an HD 650 and some units that sound like an HD 600 with a hole punched in the baffle. So no bass, very bright. So yeah, I mean, I think on average, it's like a slightly brighter 600. So B tier seems about right.
HD 599. It's been way too long since I've heard this headphone, so I'm not going to rank it.
Cameron?
Same here, actually.
Okay.
Same for me.
It's a C tier. It's a V-shaped open Sennheiser headphone in the 5 Series. You can expect dry treble, and it's got a healthy bass response, and it is warm, but it's just kind of rough in the treble.
Now we're on to the GOAT, the Sennheiser HD 600. I struggled with this one because it's right on the edge of A and B for me. So I could go either way there. The main issue is that it rolls off in the bass, and that's the end of the story. So, and the pads we're in, I guess.
I mean, yeah, feel free to just go by vibes, man.
A tier. Let's go A tier.
I've got to put it in B. I appreciate so much about what this headphone does, but it does just roll off way too much in the bass, and I also just get zero soundstage, like less than almost any other headphone.
We did say one filter, you could give it that bass boost.
Yeah, but that doesn't fix the massive intimacy thing. That is kind of just a little jarring for me on it, even though the timbre on it's great. So I've got to keep it in B. I can't put it in A.
I'm gonna call an audible here. I think I originally had this in high B tier, but I do think it deserves A tier. It's the neutral headphone, right? And the one I have here is a little bit on the bright side, but I've heard units that sound better than my HD 650 even. So I think on balance, if HD 650 is gonna be in A tier, and it is for me, spoiler, HD 600 kind of has to be there too.
Moving on to the HD 620S. This one's in C tier for me. It's sort of boxy mid-range and kind of odd treble, but otherwise, okay.
I feel very similarly, except for the fact that I don't really have all that much that I can feel is redeeming about it, so I'd bump it down to a D.
It is a C tier for me. There's nothing special about that headphone and a lot weird about that headphone. comfort's pretty good.
All right, moving on to the HD650. I have this in B tier. I just don't like it as much as the 600 because it's too warm for me.
I feel exactly the same about the 650 as I do about the 600, so also still B for me.
Man, I feel like I'm going to have to call another Audible just to bring some sensibility to this conversation. Now, I wouldn't put HD650 in an S tier. In fact, I think in my ranking, I have it right on the cusp of A to B tier, but I'm going to have to put it A tier here. And frankly, I think it's a little bit unreasonable to rank it differently than the HD600 because, again, they are so goddamn similar between units.
Actually, on my head, though, I do have a more notable difference for some reason. Or maybe it's just the pads that I was using. Because, yeah, they do also change quite a bit depending on the pads. Moving on to the HD660S. I'm going to put that into C tier at best, low C. It's okay. I don't know how else to just put this. It's a worse 650.
It is a worse 650. Honestly, I feel so similar about a lot of the Sennheiser headphones. It's just too much sub-bass roll-off, kind of rough treble. Not the 600 does it a lot better. This just doesn't quite match up, despite having a higher number. I'd say C.
C for me as well.
660S2. I like this slightly better than the 660S1. It has a little bit better bass extension, but otherwise it's pretty similar. The treble's a bit different as well, but not massively different. So I place it in C tier as well.
I tried them a little while apart, but I felt very similarly. So still C for me.
Still C for me too.
HD800S. I put this into B tier. I can understand it. I have a bit of a trouble with that treble resonance. It's somewhere between like 6 and 8 kilohertz, something like that, on my head. And it's enough where I wouldn't choose that headphone without EQ, basically. But yeah, low B for me.
I don't get the sort of 6-7 kilohertz resonance on it anywhere near as much as most other people do. I know what you mean, but I just don't get it on my head. Honestly, the issue again for me with the HD800S, sounding like a broken record, is it just rolls off too much into the sub bass. And so once I fix that up, I love the HD800S. I wouldn't quite put it in A just because the timbre on it is still a little bit much. Like the 2 kilohertz dip is too much. So I'd say B, but high B.
Yeah, it's a B tier for me too. It's got a nice openness. I actually think for an open back dynamic driver headphone, it extends competently. The treble is the main issue, but it's not the 6 to 8 or 5 kilohertz peak, whatever people say it is. For me, it's around 10 to 11 kilohertz, and it's screaming. It's real bad. But otherwise, it's a pretty solid tune. So B tier.
I used to think it was 6 kilohertz, but on the unit that I have now, it's not. It's like a little higher up, I think, in frequency. But yeah, it's a kind of shrillness. HD820. It's like D or F. I'm splitting hairs between bad here.
The way I describe HD820 is it sounds like you're listening to music underwater, and then anytime there's supposed to be bass, you just whack your head against the bottom of the bathtub instead. So I'd put that in F.
I think you gave that same description in the last one we did.
Did I say the same thing last time? Oh, fuck, okay. Well, into the bin it goes regardless. I'm so mad because it looks really pretty. I love the aesthetics of that, and it's really comfortable. And I had buyer's remorse because it came out just after, I think, I bought my HD800S. Then I tried it, and I didn't feel so bad. Into the F tier it goes.
To quote Caleb, it didn't make me want to vomit. I just really didn't like it.
Yeah, no, I have it in C tier. I do not hate that headphone as much.
You have
as
the HD820 in C?
I put it in C tier. Yeah, like the mid-range and like bass transition area is pretty gross. But like everything above like 600 hertz or so works actually really well on my head. Decent ear gain with like a slight dip in the 3 kilohertz region, and then reasonable treble, way more reasonable than the HD800 is on my head. So yeah, it's a C tier. It sounds pretty gross under 600 hertz, but I mean, a lot of closed back headphones do.
All right, Sennheiser HDB 630. I think I'm the only one who can comment on this one, right? I have it in B tier. It's good. Great sounding bass, decent mids. My only issue with it really is that the mid treble to upper treble balance is not quite right. Like it sounds a bit sneakily dark in the mid treble and a bit too much of that sort of airiness in the upper treble. But like I don't really have that much else to complain about. Yeah, solid B tier for me. Sennheiser HE1. This is the $60,000 electrostatic headphone. Well, it used to be $60,000. Now it's like what, $100,000?
Yeah, it's like twice that or something. Yeah.
Near enough, yeah.
So it's going to be a C tier for me. No, I'm just kidding. This is an A tier for me. I liked it quite a lot, just even without EQ, default sound signature. But I just want to note, I would absolutely 100% EQ this headphone. And so for anybody who's thinking, oh, why this should be an S tier? No, it shouldn't. This should be an A tier at best.
I am pretty happy putting this in S tier, not because I think it is, perfect without EQ. I would still add EQ to it. Honestly, the two main things about the HE1 that I would change slightly are the 2 kilohertz gap is very deep. And I would just fill that in a little bit. And it's got a little bit too much extra. Not too much for me, between like 4 and 7 kilohertz. Like the upper ear gain is just a little shifted up. Other than that, I really like it. Although the one thing I should note is that whenever you go and demo it, they always have crossfeed on.
Yeah, it's a terrible
It's
idea.
dumb.
You said
Stop
the same
doing
thing
that.
in the last ranking
Like if
list.
you go and listen to it, turn the crossfeed.
It's
It
still
needs to be
true.
said again. 'Cause
It's
it
still
shouldn't-
true.
You should.
It is.
It's like if you demo a headphone with, binaural recordings like one of those companies did at Munich. It's like, yeah, of course it sounds different, but it's not because the headphone's different.
Yeah.
You've got a great headphone. Just let the headphone speak for itself.
Yeah, I've got it firmly in B tier. I do not understand the hype around this headphone outside of its cost. It's tuned like a slightly warmer Hi-Fi Man headphone, but with slightly rougher treble too. Yeah, I don't really see the appeal other than the cost and the comfort. So it's a B tier, but I think overall we have arrived at A tier, right?
I'm going to defer to you guys on all the Shure headphones.
I've never heard any of the Shures other than like 10 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Damn. Okay, I'll just run through these really quick then. The SRH440 is a B tier, very solid, competent tuned headphone, maybe a little bit bright, but very solid. The 440A took that, made it more V-shaped, so that's a C tier. The SRH840, similar to the 440, maybe with a little bit more brightness and bass, I would say that's a B tier, but then the 840A is a C tier because they made it more V-shaped again. So yeah, that's those. We can move on.
Sony MDR 7506, the GOAT, the studio headphone. I have this in a C tier. I don't love the treble, but I think it's a respectable headphone.
I haven't heard this one.
You haven't heard the MDR 7506?
No.
That is pretty wild, actually. It's a very ubiquitous headphone. I don't think you're missing much, to be frank. It is a C-tier headphone. Just too bright, too lean, pretty bad coupling and industrial design. But it's a classic. It lasts a long time.
Moving on to the Sony MDR F1. I haven't heard this one.
Neither have I.
I mean, it's a C-tier. It's one of the comfiest headphones I've ever heard. It's like a open air type headphone. It's very mid-centric, very dark, no bass at all. But it's charming, so C tier.
Moving on to the Sony MDR MV1. Now, this is one where, if I'm allowed one filter again, one filter, this goes from like a C tier to like almost an A tier. I'm going to split the difference and put it in B tier because it has really good bass, really good mid-range. It's a V-shaped kind of sound signature. And the problem is on the treble end, where for me, there's a 6 kilohertz peak of death that I do not like. But one filter.
I don't even think it's a peak for me. It's just that the upper treble, generally, there's just too much of it. If you could just put a shelf on it, then yeah, it goes from solid C to B, I think, probably. But without that, it's a bright boy. And so I'd stick... Actually, no, I put it in D, stock sound, unfortunately.
Really?
But
Damn.
with EQ, I'd prompt it up to a B.
On my head, I don't think it's as big a problem as it is on Andrew's head. It is definitely too bright for me. But yeah, I mean, the bass and mids are just so solid, I can't help but put it anywhere but high B tier.
On my ranking, this is the best mid-range out of anything on this list.
I do really like the mids, and I feel like you'd probably like them more than I do because you like a little bit less in the ear gain region, but the shape is like just great. It's just a little bit too warm for me. But yeah, B tier.
Moving on to the MDR Z1R. This one I have in high C, low B, something like that. The treble is not for me, but the bass I liked, and the mid-range I thought was okay.
Yeah, bass super punchy, quite a bit more than I think most other headphones. Mid was pretty great too. The treble is just what lets it down. There was a peak in like the middle of the ear gain somewhere, I think, which was again just too much. And it's a shame. I mean, for me, when there is a big peak in the middle of the treble, it just, even if the headphone's doing everything else great, it just means I can't listen to it. And so unfortunately, this was one of those. So I'd put it low C.
Yeah, I have it in C tier too. I do like the bass. The mids are definitely kind of weird, but the treble is so rough on that headphone. So yeah, C is the highest I can put it realistically.
STAX SR L300. This one for me is C tier, but again, it's like one of those where it's like every bit about it is weird. But there's something, there's some sort of magic to these.
There's some magic in there.
Yeah, like the bass is weird, the mids are weird, the treble is unpleasant, but yeah, some kind of magic. So it's probably, I could understand if somebody would want to go much higher on this and the L700 as well. But for me, because of how wonky it is for timbre, I'm going to go C.
I would go C on both this and the L700 as well, both because they don't really do bass and they are just wonky. But it's kind of a 1266 thing going on where the 1266 is wonky, but it's still just grin-inducing, and there's something in the treble which is wrong, but in the right way, and it just makes it seem hyper-detailed, and I totally get why people love that. So I would say C. High C, probably.
Yeah, I have the L300 at a B. I quite like that headphone. It is not as bright as I thought it would be, given it was the first STAX headphone I ever heard. But I just can't help but love the openness of that headphone so much. Like that quality of what they call blackground or blackness of background is just so prominent on that headphone that even with the mid-range kind of being weird and the treble being a little bit weird, dark in some places, bright in others, really fun listen, really unique. I would own one if the comfort was better.
Moving on to the L700 Mark II, I have similar feelings about this one. It's the most detailed sounding thing that I've ever heard, but it's also one of the wonkiest for much of its tonality, particularly the treble as well. So this one is, I actually put this one in a bit higher. It's in B tier, but they're pretty similar.
I would keep it in a C tier, personally, but I can't be mad at a B. Yeah, it's a similar kind of thing. It's just a better L300, but just still, there's no bass to it, and it is still a little wonky. So it's got to stay in C for me.
I haven't heard this one, so you guys can duke it out for whether it's going to be B or C.
Now we're onto the STAX X9000. I actually like this headphone. I like this quite a bit. When I've heard it at trade shows, to be clear, I haven't had it in, but every time I hear it, I go, yeah, there's something there. This has some of the magic of the other two that were just listed. Without nearly as much of the wonk. Still a little bit, but yeah, I put this one in low A, actually.
Yeah, no, I would put this in A as well. This is a far more normal and realistic sounding STAX. For me, the only reason that I kind of am a little mixed on it is just because when you listen to it and then you listen to something like a Susvara OG, there is just a kind of weight to like the Susvara OG that the X9000 just doesn't have. It does feel kind of thin, but it's nowhere near as bass light as the L700, and so it's not a problem. Like, listening to classical music on the X9000 is genuinely fantastic. So yeah, I put it on an A.
Yeah, I like this headphone. It's a B tier for me, a solid B tier. Probably the most normal bass to mid-range relationship I've heard of any of the STAX stuff, but also not terrible in the treble. Reasonably comfortable. Yeah, I'm not mad at this headphone at all. It's a little expensive, obviously, but decent.
Moving on to the Warwick Acoustics Aperio, and just to be clear, we're not going to be ranking the GSE version because that would be unfair. So I have this in A tier, but that's not to say this is a bit like the STAX as well. It has a little bit of that ESTAT magic going on for me, but also I'll be the first to say that the tuning it can be a bit aggressive at times. So with my jazz music, with my acoustic music, there's some magic here. Also, weirdly, like people, if anybody chasing soundstage, this has an intimacy to it as well, I find. So I can see this one being a little bit polarizing, but it's one of those where for me, when it works, it really, really works.
I'll probably hold off commenting on the Aperio specifically, just so people don't get mad.
It's a C tier for me. Weird sounding headphone. Frankly, terrible acoustics. I do not see the hype at all. I do not like this headphone being on my head, even not playing music. But when I play the music, it doesn't get better. So I guess we average out to a C tier, right? Or a B tier.
Warwick Acoustics Bravura. I have this also in an A tier. This is similar to the Aperio, but the more balanced overall sounding one. Just not as magical. Not as colored, and probably as a result a bit more versatile.
Yeah, I'd put this one in an A as well. Overall, it's just a very well balanced headphone. Honestly, the main issue with it is SPL limited. So if you are the kind of person that listens quite loud and or listens to very bassy stuff, you might not be able to turn it up as much as you want. That's its main limit. If you don't listen super loud, this is a really nice headphone. Just does a lot really well, quite frankly, so I'd stick it in A.
Yeah, it's C tier again for me. I don't really hear it that different to the Aperio. Still has the same problems, just to a lesser magnitude, and the acoustics are still really annoying on my head, like the feeling of occlusion, and it's just the overall design just bothers me so much. So yeah, this is a C tier.
All right, Yamaha YH5000 SE, and I've only heard this at a show. I wasn't for me, but I don't feel like ranking it.
This one was super jank for me. This one's D. Just weird bass, weird cavernous mids, weird kind of spiky treble. Just not a fun listen.
Yeah, this is a firmly F tier headphone for me. There is no part of this headphone that is good. I can't support anyone buying it, even though it is objectively the coolest looking headphone of all time.
ZMF. The first one here is the Aurorus, and this one I have it in B tier. Treble was maybe not so great for me, but I was fine with the mids and with the bass. So yeah, B tier overall.
Pretty similar for me. I like the bass, I like the mids. The treble is, I mean, all the ZMF stuff is kind of intentionally going for some kind of coloration. This is no different. The treble just didn't work quite as well for me on this one, but I'd put it in comfortable B.
Same for me. Treble doesn't really work for me. The mids are a little bit wonky, but I actually think it might be one of Zach's most like intense slammy headphones. Obviously with any of these ZMFs, pads are going to be a question mark, but yeah, it's a B tier. I like this headphone.
The next one on the list is the ZMF Atrium. This one I was less keen on, but I also still have it in B tier.
For me personally, I know you guys aren't going to agree. I personally want to put the Atrium in A just because I listen to it so much. It is my favorite headphone for listening whilst I'm working because it's not a detailed headphone. It is a cozy, just the right amount of colored headphone for me that still gives me kind of all the engagement aspects that I want without being distracting. And I love the Atrium. That's an A-tier headphone for me.
I just found it to be too shouty and glary in the like low treble, or like I don't know, however you want to define
I don't
that.
get that at all.
Really? Oh, interesting.
No, I've heard that on one unit, but on another unit it was completely different. So
I should probably know. I did get that when I had the more open mesh. If you put the closed mesh on it, because you can change the pads and you can change the mesh and stuff. But if you put the closed mesh on it, that fixed it for me. That's what I use.
For me, it's a B tier headphone. I don't have really the low treble issue, I think, to the magnitude Andrew probably does, but I do hear a little bit of glare there. It is also a little bit too dark in the mid treble for me and a little bit too warm and soupy in the mids, but I can get down with a overly warm headphone most of the time, and the Atrium's a pretty good example of a warm headphone that's not like egregiously wrong in any one area. So B tier.
All right, so now onto the ZMF Atrium Closed. And this one, it has never been for me. Every time that I've heard it with any of the pads that I've used with it, it just hasn't been for me. There's something about the mid-range that just does not jive with me with this headphone. So this one goes into C tier.
This was a weird one because I tried it with, and I have to mention the pads on this one because when I first tried it, I had exactly the same reaction. Then I tried I think it was the Caldera suede pads, and then it sounded very, very close to the Atrium Open. And I liked it a lot more. I would still take an Atrium Open, but with those suede pads, it sounded extraordinarily similar. I'd overall put it in probably a B.
Yeah, for me, I've heard two units with two different sets of pads on it. It was a D tier both times. Just really overly warmed mids and extremely sibilant, glassy, bright mid and upper treble. Not a fan at all. Yeah. Next.
All right, so moving on to the ZMF Auteur. This is still my favorite of the ZMFs. I have this one in A tier. Every time I hear it again, I'm just like, this is just a good sounding headphone, and it's just good across the board for me. I think maybe some people find the treble to be a bit too much, but overall to me, it's just solid balance all around.
I'm the same. I also want to put this in A. I don't like it as much as the Atrium, but it's definitely an A tier headphone for me. It's just doing the right balance of not trying to be in your face about stuff whilst having slight colorations that make it more engaging than like I find most Sennheisers, for example. So yeah, I think solid A tier on that one.
For me, it's a C tier headphone, and it's one that left a particular impression on me. Like it had this kind of rubbery timbre to it. I can't quite explain. It just sounded a little bit squeaky. Yeah, no, it was too bright on my head. The mid-range was also just not quite right. It was like there was some leanness somewhere between the low mid and upper mid. It was just a little too bright, a little too lean for me. So C tier, but I think we average out to a B tier.
Now we're onto the Bokehs, the Bokeh Closed. I heard this a couple times now, and I think it's fine. It's a B tier headphone for me. The bass and mids, they're a bit wibbly wobbly, but overall, I got a sense of this is just a simple, good, normal sounding headphone, and I liked it.
I'm pretty similar again. We've had a lot of similar takes in this one, weirdly. I was not expecting that. I feel very differently about the Bokeh Open and Bokeh Closed. Bokeh Closed was a pretty decent headphone. I don't like it as much as some of Zach's other stuff, but especially given as it's quite a bit cheaper, solid choice. I would put it in probably B. The Bokeh Open, though, it was just too shouty for me. Something about that just did not work. And that one I would put in a D, unfortunately.
Completely agree. The bass on the Bokeh Open is like surprisingly like satisfying for an open back, but then that was the only thing that I liked about it, and the rest was just every track that I listened to sounded fatiguing somehow, so I couldn't get into it.
Okay, so I haven't heard either of these. So B overall for Bokeh Closed and C overall for Bokeh?
Open, put a D.
I would put D for Bokeh Open, yeah. Just did not like that one. On to the ZMF Caldera. So this is the Caldera Open. This one to me is like high B, low A. Again, it's one where I wouldn't say this is neutral in any respect. There's definitely some weirdness going on throughout the mid-range for me. But something about this combination of the response works for me. So I put this in, I'm going to go low A. Sorry, I'll go high B for Caldera Open, but then A for Caldera Closed.
I feel pretty similar. I'm so tempted. Okay, I would give Caldera... No, Caldera is going to be... I will note that again, pad dependent, but there's a little bit of a peak in the upper treble, which is fixed if you use the suede pads. Once you use that, I really like Caldera. It's also worth noting it is just straight up the most technical and detailed ZMF headphone. Yeah, I really like that one quite a lot, and it's not neutral, but it's more neutral than a lot of their other stuff. Caldera Closed, it's pretty colored. It's got some stuff going on that I just vibe with. That headphone's really good fun, and I would definitely put that in A. I think even though I would definitely pick this, like the DCA Stealth or something from a reference neutral standpoint, if I was just wanting a closed back headphone with no budget limit or whatever, I'm pretty sure it would be Caldera Closed. I really, really enjoyed that. So solid A from me.
I was not expecting this outpouring of love for the ZMF Caldera Closed. Anyway,
really?
The open back Caldera would be a solid B tier for me. Nice mids, nice bass extension. Treble's a little uneven, but no huge issues there. Caldera Closed is like a firm C tier for me, like a low C tier. I don't know what magic y'all are hearing, but I just hear some wonky mids and some weirdly dark treble. So 2 A tiers and a C tier. Are we doing B tier again?
I kind of want to say we should keep that one in A. The Caldera Closed, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I don't have a preference. All right, on to the Verite Closed. This one, I like it better than the Open. I give it a high B. The treble is a bit odd, but the bass and the mids are, every time I hear this one, I keep thinking there's something going on here that just works. So I put it into high B.
There's something about the Verite which just makes it's like I want to use a horrible subjective, like holographic kind of effect going on, which I just I really
here's the
enjoy.
Thing. Okay, here I have a question for you. Every time you hear it, do you hear it off of a tube amp?
No,
because I notice all the time when it's at shows, there's some sort of tube amp going on often.
It's better off tube amps. I like it more off tube amps, but I know I have listened to it plenty on solid state stuff as well. I feel somewhat, I don't like the Verite Open as much. That one I'd put in a C. The Verite Closed I would put in a solid B. Also just worth noting that the Verite Closed, Jesus Christ, that thing slams hard. That, if you put some electronic stuff on it, that's good fun.
I haven't heard the Verite Closed, so that one will just sit at B. The Verite Open I have heard. It's a C tier. It's just kind of wonky and warm in some places, but with like a narrow treble peak somewhere in the, I want to say the low treble, but that would be a C tier for me as well.
All right, so that does it for this ranking list. Oh my God, we've been filming for like 4 goddamn hours. So what's our takeaway here? Any key findings? Well, obviously we have very different preferences. I think Cameron and I are maybe a little bit more similar. Griffin,
big head boys that just soak up treble like a black hole.
We get the headphones, pressing in more. Yep. More compression.
Yeah, maybe.
Treble.
Exactly. Yeah, but I think we also just like there's another thing to this, right? A, we can just have different preferences from one another. B, the type of music that we like to listen to, like that, regardless of what we're doing for testing, like our preferences for music are going to be different too, which is going to make us prioritize different sound signatures. And then number 3 is what's actually going on with how these devices are behaving on our heads and relative to our ears, for what our brain expects sound to be, is going to be different too. So that's the forever problem with headphones and why all of these things are pointless.
In regards to the performing differently on our 3 heads thing, make sure you get subscribed, because it's possible in the next few months we're going to have some pretty interesting stuff coming on that.
Well, we've learned that most headphones are a B or a C. And even among the 3 of us, I feel like we've agreed that the distribution of headphone scores is kind of like a kind of like a normal distribution where B and C are in the middle and there's less A and D tier.
Mine looks like a middle finger. It's just giving me the finger. It's like, which is appropriate, I think. It goes without saying that if we had EQ available to us, like there would be a lot more like S tier, A tier type stuff that we could do with a lot of these headphones. A lot of people want EQ tier lists, but I think that it's like you have to be able to limit it at some point, because you can technically EQ the shittiest sounding headphone here to be like the best sounding thing. So it's a bit unfair to do that. All right, so that's going to do it for this video. As a reminder, guys, these rankings are going to be available up on headphones.com. So if you guys want a more detailed breakdown of how each of us individually ranked the sound, and then also the comfort and the overall score for this and the value, we have all of that available as well. And that will be linked in the description below. Headphones.com is the sponsor of this channel, makes all these videos possible. So if you found any of this interesting or funny or useful, check out headphones.com, because they are a great resource for all things to do with headphones. And if you want to chat with the rest of us, you can do so in a Discord link below, but we also have our individual forum threads up on forum.headphones.com, so do check that out. That'll also be linked in the description. That's going to do it for us here. Until next time, see you guys in the next video.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.